I'd like to welcome everybody to the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022. I want to welcome everybody here this morning, and we'll begin our meeting with the invocation given by Pastor Rudy Howard, and then the Pledge of Allegiance will be given by Terry Turner. Please stand if you're able.
Let us pray. Father, we come to you today. Your word says this is the day that you've made. We're to rejoice and be glad in it, Lord. I'm so glad that we can come into a place and still offer up prayers and thanksgiving for what you're doing for us. Lord, right now I ask you in the name that's above all names, Christ Jesus, to just take over this service and let the Holy Spirit of God just take and dwell in the hearts. They have the greatest example of being angry but sinning not. Lord, just let the things be done according to your will today. And Lord, we're just going to give you honor and praise in that name that's above all names, Christ Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Howard, and thank you, Commissioner Turner. Commissioners, that first item of business is approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the minutes stated in our agenda.
Second.
Got a proper motion by Commissioner Harvey, proper second by Commissioner Rawls. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, it's now 9:06, so we'll move down. I've had a request to move up public comment on miscellaneous items. I'm on a hold, and I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate what your comments will be. We'll move this meeting along as fast as possible, but since this was advertised as public comment at the end of the meeting, I'm going to leave it at that point, and we'll get to it as soon as we can. If you are not unable, leave your cards, and I will read those cards during the public comment portion. All right, so we're going to move down to our 9:05 certain planning and development service. Mr. John Siafi to come forward, and our first item is discussion of the extension of the impact fee moratorium.
Good morning, Commissioners. Before you today is it's already been workshopped. It's Ordinance 2022-008, an ordinance of the Board of County Commissioners of Putnam County, Florida, continuing a moratorium on the collection of impact fees through May 10, 2023, and providing for a retroactive effective date, as discussed in the workshop.
Move approval.
Second.
We've got a proper motion by Commissioner Turner to move this forward, and a proper second by Commissioner Harvey. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Paul? Excuse me, Commissioner Adams-Ack?
Do we know if we have anyone for public comment on this particular subject or for this area?
Okay. Is there anybody wishing to make public comment on this particular item?
And I'd like to speak. I believe we should not extend the moratorium on impact fees. I've said why several times in the past, but we're basically allowing the entire of this community to fund the impact of developers and of builders and of all that stuff that comes into our county, and I just don't think it's right. We have enough tax burden. We have enough things that this county and community worry about every day, and that's just the simple version, but there was a lot more last time I argued this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Adams-Ack. Okay, public comment on this particular item, impact fee moratorium. Mr. Michael Woodward, you know the drill. Please state your name and address for the record, and you got approximately 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael Woodward, 517 South Francis Street, Interlochen. I'm here today to advocate for database decision-making. I noticed the agenda packet had no data or analysis supporting a moratorium on impact fees. So I asked Planning and Development if they had any data or evidence to support the moratorium. They had none and didn't know of any. It was a different story 16 years ago when impact fees were enacted. That was a database decision. the County Commission enacted impact fees in recognition of the fact that new residential development puts a financial burden, an impact, on the taxpayers who already live here, forcing them to subsidize the additional capital expenditures needed to provide services to new residents. The Commission rightly saw impact fees as a way to make new development pay its fair share of those costs. They paid a consulting firm to gather and analyze the relevant data and come up with an impact fee schedule that was fiscally responsible, fair to new development, and fair to existing taxpayers too. A few years later, there was a nationwide recession. The Commission at that time thought impact fees were holding back development here and decided to stop collecting them. That moratorium was an assumption-based, not a data-based decision. No data, no evidence, other than maybe an anecdote or two, indicated that impact fees were reducing the number of housing starts. In fact, data gathered after the moratorium had been in place for a year or two showed just the opposite. Housing starts had not increased when impact fees were removed. Removing impact fees had not stimulated development because impact fees had not been suppressing it. Some people think bringing more people into Putnam County is the way to make us more prosperous. Well, that can only work if you're bringing in prosperous people. And prosperous people are not deterred by impact fees. They understand the importance of impact fees in maintaining high-quality local government services. Finally, let's be clear that this is not about growth versus no growth. It's about whose lunch money pays for whose lunch. Who gets stuck with the tab for the capital cost of expanding capacity to provide services to new development? And today you do not have in front of you the data you need to make the best decision. Maybe you could ask staff what it would take to put together some updated data, then you can come back and make a database decision about impact fees. If you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Woodward. Any questions? Mr. Rawls, I think you were next.
So I agree and disagree with you respectfully. Our population has decreased by 1,000. Our population has decreased by 1,000. I don't know that there is an impact on us by not having impact fees. But you're right. We don't have the data that it would take to make an informed decision. That's not uncommon around here. I've argued that for a long time. Impact fees hurt entry-level housing buyers. If you take right now your housing, according to the Northeast Florida Real Association, your median home sale price is around $212,000. If you put another $10,000 on top of that, you just increase the burden for the home buyer on that. And let's be realistic. The houses that are selling lately are selling north of that $212,000 at the entry-level price point. So when you put that on the back of the people that would be looking to build a new home here, and that would be you, if you decide to sell your home and move, myself, or anybody in this room, I think that's the argument that really needs to be looked at. But my biggest concern is, take a look at, let's say, hypothetically, an area like Belaca that is poised for a lot of growth and development, or East Belaca. Right now, there's a big unknown, in being discussed over in East Belaca, and a group of developers and investors that are looking to do some development over there. Yet the Land Development Code, which you're very much aware of, requires that the developers come in and put in all of their infrastructure, their paving, their grading, their roads, their drainage, their water, their sewer. There's no impact on near you. At that point, if somebody wants to live in a subdivision where they've had to pay more for their land because somebody went in and put money in their pocket to improve that, I got no problem with that. That's a fair way of doing it. But if you take a look at Belaca, somebody goes in there and starts developing, and all of a sudden there's a lot of development, and let's just say we have impact fees in there. Is the money going to stay in the greater Belaca area, or are we going to spread some of it out in Florhome, Interlaken, Crescent City, Barden, Boswick? And that's part of the problem I have with impact fees, is if you build a house in Boswick that's extremely rural, and you have 15 or 20 acres, and you pay your impact fees, and they don't put a new school bus, a new police officer, a new school teacher, the services that you're describing, it's not fair. I'm a fair tax kind of guy. I believe that everybody should pay their fair share. So the problem with impact fees is that it's not fair. If we were to have a fair taxing system where your housing value doesn't determine whether or not you pay for 911 operators, animal services, fire, rescue, police, that's a fair taxing system, but we don't do that. We put more burden on people, especially if you're building a house in the past 2 years. If you've built a new home in the past 2 years, you're paying a lot more than your fair share in this county, and people that have owned their houses for the past 15 or 20 years are paying a lot less. That's the conversation I believe that needs to take place. But the impact fee conversation, you're absolutely correct. We are not prepared to have a vibrant, informed conversation. And part of the problem is the lack of data that we have. Take a look at what we produced for our comprehensive plan. We stripped the data out of it, sent it to Tallahassee because it was embarrassing. We need that data back in. If you go back to the comp plan ahead of that, it shows that 70% of our housing was built before 1980. That's the kind of data we need. I need to see the housing built between 90 and 2000, 2010, 2020. If I had that information, you and I would have a completely different conversation right now. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond to Commissioner Roll's comments?
I'd like to
Yes,
hear it.
yes, sir.
In regard to the burden that you indicate impact fees place on what you call an entry-level
Workforce housing.
You also have to think about all the people who are paying taxes who can't afford even to get a new entry-level house. There are poor people who are paying their taxes in, who are not going to get the benefit of a new house. And the question which should be put beside the question you asked, or the point you raised, is it fair to those people that they should be subsidizing the capital expenditures to be able to give services to the people who are building new houses?
I would entertain this conversation if you would also regard the people that aren't paying for the services currently that reside here. And you open up by saying you want to move the goalposts back from people who can't afford to buy a new home, but you're going to move that goalpost for them by putting this on top of them. I would love, if you would like to carve out some time, I'll give you a few hours of my time one day and we'll sit and discuss this. And I'm sure it would be very productive, and I'm not being facetious. But I think at the end of the day, this is a very broad conversation. But again, you're right, we're not ready to vote on this.
As to the figure of $10,000 that you came up with, I don't know where that came from, but I don't
The last
recall
time we had impact fees
here ever being anywhere near $10,000.
Yeah.
But some of the points that you make about being able to factor in whatever infrastructure is provided for in a subdivision and so on, that goes to how much the impact fee should be. And it's a good argument for making it less rather than more, but it's a question of what the right number is.
I disagree.
Not whether or not there
All
should
right.
be an impact.
If I could just say this real quick.
One
and-
more comment,
right.
and then I'm going to go to
I'll
Commissioner
disagree and
Turner,
I'll
and
say
we're going
this.
to move forward.
We are fixing to rewrite our land development code. If we put that requirement on the backs of the developers in the code where it's required that they come in and they put in their sidewalks, their roads, their water and sewer, and all the accoutrements that we would require, curb and gutter, on-site retention, all that. If we put that in there, then we're doing our job. That takes the burden that you're talking about off of you and I and everyone else in this room.
Okay, all right, we're going to go to Commissioner Turner, and then we'll move forward the vote. Commissioner Turner?
Basically, what I was gonna bring up is what just Commissioner Rawls just brought up, that we're fixing to redo the land development code, and we can put a lot of those things in there. I don't think right now is the time for an impact fee, I truly don't. But I do support trying to come up with better data-driven information, for this is only a one-year moratorium for when it comes up next year, to try and come up with better data on the current environment, which I think is part of what you're talking to today, is that the environment was different 16 years ago, it was different in '08. It's been changing as we went, and so it's a changed environment. So I don't disagree that we need to try to find some current data before this is done next year, but I think we're gonna have to do it today, and so I'm gonna support this motion today. But like I said, I do want more data for the next extension, or possible not extension too. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Turner, and thank you, Mr. Woodward, for all your
Thank you,
comments.
Commissioners.
Okay. All right, we've got a proper motion, we've got a proper second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye. Okay, 4-1 with Commissioner Adams Act dissenting. Okay, we'll move down to the next item, planning and zoning. RE 2020-12 22-003, rezoning, residential R1, commercial 2 to C4. Turn it over to planning and zoning.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Joe Searley, Planning and Development Services. This is item number 3 on the agenda. This is an application by Neil Strickland to amend the zoning map from residential single-family R1 and commercial retail C2 to commercial intensive, the C4 zoning district, to allow for outside storage of fabricated metal panels. The subject property is located 440 feet north of the intersection of Masters Road and State Highway 17. The future land use is currently commercial and urban service, and the current zoning district associated with this amendment is residential single-family R1 and commercial 2. Subject parcel is a 4.56 acre parcel and is currently zoned both residential and commercial. Approximately 0.8 acres within the north portion of the subject property is zoned residential single-family 1, with the southern portion of the parcel being C2. Applicant is requesting rezone the entire parcel under the commercial intensive C4 zoning district to expand upon the existing metal fabrication use to allow for both indoor and outdoor storage of fabricated metal panels. Here's an aerial of the parcel. The River Grove subdivision is to the north, several commercial uses to the south and to the east. Here's a zoning map. As you can see, the north portion of the parcel is zoned R1. And the future land use consists of commercial in the red and urban service in the blue. So the current zoning designations do not allow for outdoor storage. If this rezoning were to be approved, the applicant would also be required to seek a special use permit to allow for the outdoor storage use within the C4 zoning designation. Per section 45-84 of the LDC, the C4 zoning designation allows for construction trades with outdoor storage with the approval of a special use permit, so they would have to go through another public hearing process through the Zoning Board of Adjustment. The parcel has an underlying future land use category of commercial and urban service. The commercial and urban service land use designation allow for both neighborhood and community commercial uses along the South Highway 17 corridor. This parcel is located in a portion of the corridor that has existing commercial development on lands surrounding it and with both the urban service and commercial land uses. Portions of Highway 17 currently have water infrastructure, which serves to encourage non-residential development. The subject property abuts Masters Road and Ferry Road and is surrounded by residential uses to the north, the River Grove subdivision. Staff has not received any letters of opposition or emails at this time. The parcel is predominantly surrounded by commercial zone parcels to the east, west, and south, and currently operating as commercial entities. So any potential impacts on the neighboring residential parcels, there is provisions in the Land Development Code. The applicant would be required to provide a 20-foot wide Class B vegetated buffer between those residential uses to the north. Perimeter buffing would also be required along all vehicle parking areas. And outdoor storage areas, there are additional landscaping provisions of a 20-foot wide Class B buffer between any residential use. And that buffer consists of 6-foot masonry wall or fence, 6-foot evergreen plants with 75% opacity, low-growing evergreen plants, and 8-foot evergreen canopy trees planted no more than 20 feet apart. The Planning Commission recommended approval of this application at the July 13th, 2020 public hearing. Staff is also recommending approval. I believe the applicant here is answering any questions as well as staff.
Okay, Commissioners, any questions for staff? Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a prime example of our maps just not being right, because from Masters Road, Ferry, all that to back to the east is all commercial. I mean, if you drew a line. So it seems like if the public's watching us, we're going from R1 to something more intensive, but truly that's the nature of that area anyway. So we're not doing something that normally wouldn't be done. And there is new development even to the west of that with the new tire outlet coming in. So all that was intended for the commercial industry, and I support this. So thank you very much. Just wanted to make that statement.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
I think maybe back when the maps were drawn on this, the reason that that northerly parcel was in R1 was because it presented a buffer, and even on the one next door, even on the property to the east, there's still an undeveloped parcel behind the shopping center or whatever in there because it's R1 also, and nobody's come forward. I don't really have a problem with this request. I really don't. My biggest problem is that we make sure that there is a good buffer, and I know that the code calls for it. There is a good buffer between this and the people that live in the residential subdivision across the street. So I am going to support it, and I am going to vote for it, I think, but that was my biggest concern. And I did see that the one thing that eased my concern a little bit was I saw in the minutes the Planning Commission actually asked those questions also and had that same concern, but felt like the buffer would probably handle that concern to them. So that's the reason why I don't have as large a concern, but it was a concern to me that took place. Also, it wasn't but about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, the commission had talked about doing an overlay in the East Pelaca area for this whole area. But I believe the overlay was just for the properties that fronted 17 through East Pelaca, not necessarily those that were back off the highway a little bit. So maybe that addresses that concern I also have for the overlay, which still needs to be done for that area, an East Pelaca overlay. So hopefully that'll be done in the not too distant future. But like I said, I am going to support this, but I felt like I needed to make those comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, before I go to Commissioner Rawls, along those lines, Gabriel, we discussed yesterday about the buffers and the different types that they could use, but I just want to clarify, the outside storage cannot be any higher than the fencing or the buffer, is that than the fencing,
sir.
correct?
That's correct. They'll put the entire area that has outdoor storage will have to be completely screened with a fence and vegetation. Even the parking area is going to have to be screened. So any additional parking is going to have one shade tree per 50 feet and shrubbery all along the parking. So it's going to be heavily screened.
Okay, all right,
And,
thank
and
you.
we would tackle that at the development review stage.
DRC.
And if I may address a few other points, we'll read the ordinance into the record in just a moment. And to address Commissioner Turner's point, that is one of the items that we'll be working on, an overlay, mainly for our gateways, but East Pelaca is one of them. So with this land development code revision, we intend fully on working on an overlay that will protect the appearance and the character of our gateways.
Thank you.
Just for the record, the ordinance number is 2022-009, and this is an ordinance of the County of Putnam, State of Florida, amending the official zoning map for Putnam County into Article 2 of the Putnam County Land Development Code, providing for severability and an effective date.
Okay, thank you, Gabriel. Commissioner Rawls?
I just, so I'm familiar with the applicant. I think they do a great job. I don't think there'll be any issues over in East Pelaca and with the finished product, and I'm obviously in favor of this, but what is the reason for the special use permit once you go C4? Because C4 is not very restrictive, and if you were going to have we used to have a Scotty's over in East Pelaca, there's an outdoor lumber yard there. Would they require a special use permit?
Which site?
Never mind.
If there's a,
If they were going to have an outdoor lumber yard there.
so lumber yards go in industrial areas, if not the ag with the special use, and we've already hashed out that discussion a few meetings ago, but the reason for the special use is mainly to allow the ZBOA to impose additional conditions for screening.
Okay.
So both the light industrial use that's on the property now, it does not have a special use, so we're working with the applicant to get that special use permit in. Unfortunately, without business tax receipts, we're not able to catch this
Really?
ahead of time, so.
Do tell. I'll be darned.
So that being said, we're working with the applicant now so that it does not go to code enforcement. So we're working with them to get a special use for that, and then the contractor trades with outdoor storage. We're going to be helping him with that as well.
So you bring up an interesting point. If that used to be Lee sheet metal a long time ago. So at some point, the facility sat vacant. By not having BTRs and not knowing what's open and not open, the 6-month window that typically would be there for zoning or for use, do we have any way of keeping track of that?
No, sir. We have no way of keeping track. I mean, we look at things like electrical bills, but even then, that's difficult because most places will keep their electricity on, and we have no idea if it's an industrial use that's in there that's using electricity or another use. So it's very difficult to track what businesses go where, and unfortunately, sometimes, as in the case of Safe Pet Rescue, it comes in afterwards. But
Right.
in this case, we're not going to allow that to happen this time. We're just going to proactively assist so that it doesn't go to code
But
enforcement.
just for the record, I agree. I think we do need that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Adams, Zach?
Well, mine usually isn't the one with feedback. I guess I just wanted to make a statement. I mean, even if it was all C2, which I think it probably should have all been, we still would have had to do this to go from C2 to C4. So that still adjustment would have had to occurred. So this still would have come before us. I look forward to land development code, getting that redone. My only concern here is the other uses in C4, if this person decided to move their business and things like that. That is my only concern. I do support this for this use. Unfortunately, I think C4, will that carry forward if they stop their use, or is that where the 6-month expiration comes in? Can you just describe that a little bit?
So there is no expiration for zoning, and it would transfer with any sale. And a further, an additional property owner would have to come in for development review. So we would catch it at that point, but we could not deny a use that was permitted by right in C4.
That is the only concern that I have, and I will be voting yes, but with that concern.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think that's exactly what I was gonna say. That's why I turned my light off. It's not the concern of the current owner at all. They have the highest integrity, and if you go and look at the place since they took over Lee's Sheet Metal, they've made it better. You know, they didn't have to, but they put up a really nice vinyl fence around their parking. They've gone above and beyond what they needed to do, and I think they will if they develop this parcel. But if my biggest concern is also what Commissioner Adams' acts is that C4 allows for a lot of uses, including gas stations and things that they can put in C4 by right, not by special exception or whatever. So it's not what they're gonna do with it, it's what could be done. And I'm gonna also agree to go along with this today, but that is a valid concern, and it's one of mine also. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I address that concern as well?
Yes.
The comprehensive plan has a few controls in it. I wish it had more, but things that are of a community scale would probably have to be, would probably be denied at the development review stage, only because they don't front on an arterial road or on a road that has the capacity. And if they wanted to do something like that, they would have to expand the road at their expense. We had similar concerns when we were evaluating the request, mainly the fact that there was already C4 there, I mean, expanding it a little bit would not be wouldn't be detrimental to the area because it was existing already.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions, Commissioner? Is the applicant here? Is the applicant here? Would they like to make any comments? If you do, you have to come up to the microphone. Okay, you're good? Okay, all right. Open up for public comment on this item. Any individuals wishing to speak for this? Any individuals wishing to speak against this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion on this item. And Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the ordinance 2022-009 and R22-003 is consistent with our comp plan.
We've got a proper motion by Commissioner Harvey and a proper second by Commissioner Turner. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, indicate saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, item moves us forward. Good luck with your project. Okay, we'll move down to item C, R22-004, rezoning, single-family R1 and commercial retail C2 to general commercial C3, ordinance 2022-010.
Once again, for the record, Joe Searley, Planning and Development Services. At this time, I'm going to read the ordinance title in. It's ordinance 2022-010, amending ordinance number 0518. This is an ordinance of the County of Putnam, State of Florida, amending the official zoning map for Putnam County Incorporated into Article 2 of the Putnam County Land Development Code, ordinance 2005-18, providing for severability and an effective date. Case number is RZ 22-004. So this application is to amend the zoning map from residential single-family R1 and commercial 2 to commercial general C3 to allow for excess merchandise storage facility associated with the existing tire store currently under construction. The applicant is BWT Property Management, and the property is located 210 feet west of the intersection of Highway 17 and Masters Road. The existing future land use is commercial and urban service, and the zoning district is R1 and C2. So the subject parcel is 6.96 acres and is currently zoned both R1 and Commercial 2. Applicant is proposing to rezone only a 2.9 acre portion of that parcel to C3 to allow for the expansion of the storage facility affiliated with the tire store. The proposed use would also allow for additional commercial operations that would permit passenger vehicle sales, passenger rental, and service, excluding auto body repair or your more intensive repair services. Here's an aerial of the portion of the parcel that they intend to rezone. It is right across the street from the application we just had. Here's a survey showing the portion of the parcel where they would be taking proposed access from Masters Road at that sliver at the very north. Here is a zoning map showing its urban service and the portion that will be rezoned. Here is a land use map showing the commercial and urban service land use classifications. So the current zoning designation does not allow for the passenger vehicle sales, rental, and service. They do want to provide additional repair services that would be limited to their less intense repair services. The C3 zoning designation allows for this use, however, excludes auto body repair shops. This would allow for additional vehicle repair uses and not limit them to just oil, battery repair, and tire repair. The parcel is located in a portion of the corridor that has existing commercial development on lands within the urban service and commercial land use. This portion of Highway 17 currently has water infrastructure, which serves to encourage non-residential development. The subject property abuts Highway 17 and Masters Road, and the proposed warehouse facilities proposed to take access from Masters Road. Parcels surrounded by commercial zone parcels to the east and south of the subject property, and the Planning Commission voted to approve this application at the July 13th, 2022 public hearing, and staff is recommending approval as well. I believe the applicant is here, and staff is here to answer any questions.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions to staff? Okay, I have one question. If this is approved and they move forward with the project with the mechanical repair, I spoke with Gable. I just want to make this clear. My concern, and I'm in that business in automotive parts, and but vehicles being stored outside, what will happen there? I know you don't fix every car, every time it comes in, and you get it done in a few minutes or in a day, and it may have to sit there for a while. So what's the restrictions on outside storage in those areas for vehicles that are being worked on?
So there is no outside storage of any kind that's permitted in C3. So any vehicles would have to be put into the bays every evening, and then they pull them right back out in the mornings to work on them. So while they're open, they would have obviously some vehicles potentially out there, but you may have one or two vehicles that are finished and parked in the parking area, but there should be no storage of tires, no display of tires, nothing that can be seen that's part of their business other than their building, and basically a clean parking area.
Okay, thank you. Okay, commissioners, any questions? Okay, is the applicant here? Is the applicant here today? Okay, I guess not. Okay. All right, any public comment on this particular item? Any individuals wishing to speak for this particular zoning change? Any individuals wishing to speak against this particular change? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion and open up Commissioner Turner.
I really don't see the harm in this at all. They have a bank on the corner, and all this is doing is giving them access to Masters Road from the back side of the building, and be able to have a storage facility in the back where they can store tires and things like that without having to try to store them outside, which is our code prevents. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move that we uphold the recommendation of the Planning Commission and the recommendation of the staff and approve this request.
Second.
Okay, we got a proper motion to move this item forward by Commissioner Turner and a proper second by Commissioner Adamsack. Okay, any further discussion by the commissioners? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Good luck with your project. Okay, thank you, Gabriel. Okay, we'll move down to the next item, Solid Waste Collection and Disposal District. And I will ask Ms. Michelle. Oh, okay. I need to recess? Okay, I'll recess this meeting and then go into the Solid Waste Collection Disposal District.
Gotta invite Ms. Myers.
And I'd like to invite Mayor of Crescent City, Ms. Michelle Myers, to come forward. Matt, if y'all could make room over there for her. Any other mayors? I don't see Mayor Hill or Mayor Larson at all. So. Okay. Welcome, Ms. Myers, and thank you for attending this morning. You might have to pull that microphone down to you if you make any comments. Okay, our first item of business is approval of the minutes of the Solid Waste Collection Disposal District meeting, July 26, 2022.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a proper motion to approve and a proper second.
Under comment.
Okay, under Commissioner under comments.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just want to, for the public to know that we're not shoving this through this quick. It was discussed at length at a meeting previous to this, and so this is basically just the next step in getting that we reduced the assessment, the solid waste assessment this year, an additional $17 from over last year. So that's 3 years in a row that we've been able to reduce the solid waste assessment to the citizens. So I just wanted to bring that out before we vote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Julianne, you want to go over the
Yes, sir.
proposal?
Yes, sir, Chairman. By county ordinance, the board is required to establish the solid waste assessment and government-owned property user fee by resolution prior to the beginning of each fiscal year. This was accomplished at the July 26, 2022 board meeting. The next requirement is to accept and approve the attached special assessment roll from the property appraiser so that the rate resolution can be implemented on October 1, 2022 for the new fiscal year. Recommended action by staff is to motion to accept and approve the special assessment roll for implementation of the 22-23 solid waste resolution.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Young. Okay, commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I think he already made
We have a motion.
Oh, we did? Okay. Motion and a second? Okay, I'll open it
Hang on,
for,
Michelle's trying to reach your microphone.
okay. I'm
No,
gonna say,
fine. No,
there's
I'm
your,
fine. I just want to make sure I get my vote in there.
okay. All right, I need to do public comment. Okay, I'll open this up to public comment. Any individuals wishing to make public comment on this particular item? Okay.
Diane Sykes, 304 Chestnut Street, Crescent City. How much is the additional, this special assessment?
It's not additional.
It's a
No,
lower.
it's your regular solid waste fee.
Oh, okay, so it's not gonna.
No, there's not another assessment, no ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise known as your trash
It's
collection.
your trash pickup.
Okay, just because our trash pickup's gonna go up, we're just gonna get the same services we had before, and we're already gonna go up
And it's going down
$6 a month.
$17.
Okay.
She's in Incorporated Crescent City.
Hey, wait.
Okay. Okay, any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Okay, all right. I'll adjourn the solid waste, and thank you, Ms. Michelle, and I'll reconvene the regular board meeting. And thank you, Ms. Myers, for coming.
All yours.
Welcome back.
Do that, we're all vote on the new system.
Okay, our next item, item 5, we'll start with presentations, and I don't have to remind everybody what happened on September 11th, 2001. It was the worst attack that the United States of America has ever had on our soil. And at that particular time, I'm sure everybody here remembers exactly where they were and what they were doing, and that they were unsure of the future of the United States of America. We're here today to start honoring, as we do every year. We will have a celebration on Sunday, September 11th, to honor the first responders, the firefighters, the medics, the law enforcement, who on that particular day throughout the country, and especially in New York and those areas, responded without concern for themselves. It was the concern of the fellow citizens who were in those towers and in surrounding areas that were affected by this horrific attack. So at this time, I'd like to ask Public Safety Director J.R. Grimes to come forward with the honor guard and any other firefighters, EMTs, paramedics that would like to come forward to the podium, and also Sheriff Gator Deloach, Colonel Joe Wells, and any of his staff or any fellow law enforcement that would like to come forward to read this proclamation, and then we'll discuss the changes for the event that will happen Sunday, September 11th. And I've asked Commissioner Larry Harvey to read this proclamation as I go to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Putnam County Proclamation Number 2022-077, Patriot Day and a day of prayer, service, and remembrance. Whereas on September 11th, 2001, the American people endured with courage and heroism the worst attack on U.S. soil in the nation's history. And whereas in response to this tragedy, Americans across the country came together in a remarkable spirit of patriotism and unity and carried out countless acts of kindness, generosity, and compassion. And whereas community organizations and family members of 9/11 victims began observing the anniversary of September 11th as a charitable service day to honor the memory of those who were lost and those who united in response to the tragedy, including law enforcement officers, first responders, and volunteers. And whereas Putnam County has many brave men and women serving our county who heroically, tirelessly, and courageously put their own well-being at risk in difficult, stressful, and often dangerous situations. And whereas the Awakening America Alliance, Cry Out America, has called people to gather for prayer, our historic leaders have called for periods of prayer for our nation, and God has called his people to observe solemn assemblies for generations. And whereas a solemn assembly is a day of restraint, where religious and political leaders gather in a serious nature to bring their petitions and prayer to God. And whereas God has promised in the Bible in 2 Chronicles 7:14-15, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now my eyes shall be open, my ears attentive unto the prayer that is made in this place. Now therefore, be it proclaimed by the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners that September 11th is hereby recognized as Patriot Day and a day of prayer, service, and remembrance for the victim of terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001. In Putnam County, and its citizens are called upon to honor the lives and memories of those lost through participation in community service and remembrance ceremonies on this day and throughout the year. Be it further proclaimed that the citizens of Putnam County are urged to show their support and appreciation of all local heroes, including law enforcement officers, firefighters, paramedics, first responders, and volunteers of Putnam County who give of themselves to protect and serve their communities. Thus proclaimed this 23rd day of August 22, 2022. Mr. Chairman, I move approval of this proclamation.
We've got a proper motion by Commissioner Harvey, proper second by Commissioner Rawls. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Thank you. As you're aware, we're doing our normal ceremony, Remembrance Ceremony. However, it'll be at a different location this year. I came before you and you asked for permission for that, and you guys approved that last time I saw you, and thank you. It'll be down at the I guess it's the Amphitheater Pavilion down at the riverfront. I've already got permits from the city of Belaca as well. I'm also the commander of our honor guard that we started, and it will be debuting on that day. Would appreciate everybody. We'll get some information out to the public and to Mr. Suggs for the invitations for emails for that type of thing. I think that's all I got. Sorry. Yeah, the honor guard. If you're not familiar with the honor guard in the fire department, it's very ceremonial. We carry flags and stand at caskets and those types of things. Unfortunately, we just lost a brother the other day in St. Johns County. We'll be helping them in any way we can, and they would provide us the same assistance, God forbid, if we had an incident here. We have my liaison to the chief here. Everybody else is either on duty or active somewhere else right now. So there's 7 of us currently. We're fingers crossed we get our uniforms this week. So we're keeping that together, but we want to be more active in the community when it comes to we'd like to come and do some things with you guys, parades and all those types of things to represent not only the fire department but the county as best that we can. So,
What time is that ceremony?
it will start at 9:45, and then it should not be too terribly long, maybe about 30 to 45 minutes. I've also been in contact with the Sheriff's Department's Honor Guard. We're trying to get them to get their participation as well to a joint effort and with the city of Belaca. Thank you.
I just want to thank JR and then the Honor Guard for coming to us and just presenting the possible change from, it was fine in the parking lot, but I think down at the riverfront at the amphitheater will be a better venue. Hopefully more people will attend so we can recognize the people who lost their lives and continue to struggle from the effects of that horrific day. So thank you. We'll get a picture in a few minutes. Sheriff DeLoach, would you like to say anything? You're good? Okay. Jerry, will you introduce everybody here? Can you do that? I don't put you on the spot.
At the end, starting to my right and to the commission's left is Battalion Chief Paul Flato. He kind of carried the torch on this ceremony from the day of inception until this year, and he kind of handed it over to Chief Hitchcock and Lieutenant Rust. He's really carried the torch for many, many years, and I think we're just expanding upon some of the events that we always could have done before and just making them just a little bit better. It's always been a great ceremony, but we're just kind of changing venues. Going to try to open it up and just get some more community response. Because if we had a day like September 12th, everybody in the county would show up. To be honest with you, if we had September 12th of 2001, we wouldn't have a big enough venue to hold everybody. So hopefully we can get kind of back to that day in our lives, is getting back to a day like September 12th. Starting here, we got 2 brand new faces that have only been with us for just a few days or a couple weeks. Can I get you guys to tell me your names? Fireman Kanata. Fireman Schloss. Lieutenant Colleen Underwood. Chief Hutchinson. Battalion Chief Hitchcock. And of course, Lieutenant Rust, which is our commander for our honor guard. Sheriff DeLoach and Colonel Joe Wells. And thank you so very much.
Yeah, good deal.
Okay, we'll get some pictures.
You want to stay up here? Will you talk more just a little bit so I can get them?
Bro. For y'all trying to see which one can lose the most weight.
We did
JR, you're on the left.
You don't need to lose much more, brother.
Be seen some? Good.
Hey, Gator.
Thank you for all your work. I hope your uniforms do come in.
Where are they coming from?
Hey, can we get a plan?
What happened to Harrison's uniforms? No longer?
Just trying to get the ladder.
Just trying to get the ladder truck in the right spot. I'll work on it.
I might work on it for you.
Okay, we'll move down to our next presentation, recognition. It's always good to be able to recognize employees of the county. So we have HR Director Sarah Carone coming down. We have to recognize the Employee of the Month and the Employee of the Quarter. We have John Siafi with us, which is Building and Planning and Zoning in the Building Department, and Gabriel. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So the Employee of the Month for July is Ms. Nancy Brown. She is in Planning and Development Services, and she's a planning technician. And just to read a few lines from her nomination, excuse me, says Nancy consistently exceeds expectations in the performance of her duties. She has assisted in training new staff members with great concern for the advancement of an effective and efficient department. Nancy has created templates for letters sent out to the public to increase efficiency and reduce the amount of time that staff spend in creation of such letters. Nancy maintains consistent communication with her supervisor regarding her tasks and situations and communicates with the public on a daily basis and follows up with individuals. She is an exemplary employee. She strives to learn more about her profession, completes her tasks with accuracy and efficiency, and contributes to the effective operation of our department. And I know that Mr. Siafi and Gabriel, I can't remember your last name, I'm sorry, want to say something.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm part of the nominating committee for Employee of the Month, Employee of the Quarter, and it was a great honor that I could be a part of this committee and recognize employees that are stellar in their duties. Ms. Brown she always goes above and beyond, never complains, always helps fellow employees and citizens. So I'd like to congratulate her today and thank her for her service to the county.
Well, excuse me, I agree with everything that's been said. Nancy is an exceptional employee. She's been with our department for approximately 5 years now, and the public welfare is at the forefront of everything that Nancy does, which is indispensable in a county employee. So this recognition is very well deserved.
Thank you.
Let's get a picture.
Money.
We'll just stay up. Get in front. Easier. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Oh, God. Don't wish that on me, please. Can you be seen? Y'all get seen?
All right, and now we will do presentation for Employee of the Quarter, and this is for the third quarter of the fiscal year. And I am happy to announce that it is Lieutenant Colleen Underwood.
Yeah.
Y'all would come up front. If you remember when she was nominated, she has basically was nominated for her positive force with her department, encouraging other people, and she's our animal rescue person on fire rescue. So I'm happy to announce for Miss Colleen Underwood. There.
Commissioners, I just wanted to mention that Colleen started out as a volunteer with Putnam County. She was able to career track up through fire rescue. She's recently promoted to lieutenant, and she's also a paramedic. And there's never any complaining out of her. The more work, the better. She is just a go-getter, and we're proud of her and proud of her achievements. Thank you.
Yep. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I get to be first.
You want a picture with your friend?
Oh, mine?
Okay, again, congratulations to Ms. Nancy and Colleen for their hard work. We truly appreciate it, and that's what makes our job a lot easier with employees such as these two young ladies. Okay, we'll move down to item C, and I'll ask the Senior Vice President of Meridian Behavioral Health Care to come forward, Mr. Alan Paulin, to give us the annual report. And welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Mr. Chair, I'm Alan Paulin, Senior Vice President of Meridian Behavioral Health Care's Clinical and Community Services. I'm here to present Meridian's Behavioral Health Care's annual report to the board. Meridian was established in 1971. We're currently accredited by the Council for Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facilities. Meridian addresses a broad range of individual and community needs regarding mental health and substance abuse disorders. Meridian has been continuing to expand on services based on the needs of the communities that we serve, and including Putnam County. We're very happy to announce that we've opened up a service location here on Krill Avenue, and we've started Outpatient Detox, and we're in the process of adding staff to address mental health and substance abuse needs in the community for children and adults. Our mission is to promote the health, recovery, and well-being of those affected by mental illnesses and substance use disorders through prevention, coordinated treatment, and supportive services. Our vision is that hope, recovery, and wellness are within everyone's reach. This past fiscal year, up till May when this was collected, we had served a total of 755 residents of Putnam County. A portion of those were provided through telehealth services, 152. This has been something we had been doing for approximately 6 or 7 years. It greatly expanded when on the onset of COVID, and we're maintaining a high level of these services. We give the clients, the people we serve, a choice of what they would like. Often the reason that telehealth is chosen, it's quicker access for people. It avoids travel costs and times if they have other responsibilities for job, community, or their family. And on that note, done telehealth, we do send prescriptions electronically also to assist with some of those same issues. And if client still prefers telehealth and they do not have any kind of device, we do have grants that have provided iPads for them to use to access those services. So it's another way that we can break down barriers for people to access care. We know that stigma can be very strong at certain times, and it takes a big step if you're having a substance abuse and or mental health issue, and this is another way that we can try to break down that stigma and those related barriers. On the following page, if you're following through, it has a breakdown of the demographics that we serve by race and also by the age breakdown, and you will see that the highest percentages we have are for ages 18 to 64, because we're not co-located in the schools, at least at this time, like we are in some of our other counties. Our younger children, there's not as high of numbers, but we certainly would like to see those increase. One of the critical things about working with younger age children, a lot of mental health symptoms and mental health challenges start at an early age, elementary, middle school. The earlier that you can get in and recognize those early warning signs, working with teachers, guidance counselors, the better outcomes you will have down the road, often preventing later onset of severe mental health issues and also substance abuse issues. So we always will continue to focus on prevention services for youth. The next page that we have covers the types of services that we're delivering to the adults and children. We do have high numbers of the acute care. We know we're serving as a receiving facility for Putnam County, for this mostly on the west side of the county. We also have residential treatment centers that, even though they're not located here, they're certainly available. So if they can get a ride to the residential treatment center, we have that for detox. We have that for substance abuse treatment, including adults, but also for adolescents. And that's located in Columbia County, but we certainly can serve these residents. We have our standard outpatient counseling, and we also have the medication-assisted treatment, which is your methadone and your outpatient dosing as well. Outpatient dosing on that level, as well as for Vivitrol and Suboxone to treat the opioid disorders that are coming to us. So how are these services paid for? We accept a wide range of payers, insurances, to ensure that the indigent care dollars that we receive from the state and the county are used as last resort. In regards to Putnam County, 85% of those seen in Putnam County were at or below the federal poverty guidelines, and all of those citizens were eligible for care with no barriers financially speaking. So just a breakdown on the indigent care dollars, we would bill approximately half of those to Medicaid. 43% were provided through the state and county funds. And then we have 6% of private insurance, but the problem with the private insurance, it often doesn't cover the services that that citizen needs. So it would default, if the service is not covered under that plan, it would default to those other funds mentioned. The next question that I would be asking, how effective are these services that we do provide? So we do measure this. We measure this on consumer satisfaction surveys, but also standardized scales on improvement of functioning and reduction of symptoms. And we're collectively, for adults and children, at 75% improved functioning and reduction. And just as for a benchmark, national benchmarks, recovery rates for severe mental health illnesses range from 40 to 60%, and recovery rates for addiction range from 40 to 50%, depending on how you're measuring it, how far out was the severity of the issue coming in for treatment. We like to also compare, just for sake of comparison, on the medical side. If you look, we pulled for diabetes, hypertension, and other chronic illnesses range from 40 to 60% for successful outcomes. So a lot of times it's under the impression that if you come in, if somebody doesn't get better right away, that services was not a failure. There are some very challenging cases that we may not get the first time, but you're at least setting up for recovery down the road. And our consumer satisfaction surveys on the right hand of the page are well into the 90s, as you see. So, one of the funding requirements that Meridian has and is charged with by the state is to generate local matching funds. The total for our agency is right around 2.8 million. Our funding request this year from the county is, last year was 52,493. This year we are requesting a 4.8 increase for a total of 55,000 for this coming fiscal year, which starts for us July 1st of 22. And that's mainly based on increase in the services that we're providing and of course cost of living. And on that note, I'd like to open up, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to.
Okay, Alan, thank you so much for the presentation. We'll start with Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you for all the work that your company does in Putnam County, helping those in need. 55,000 seems to be a very small match to access the services you provide, so I thank you for that. My question on telehealth, who's your client? How do you get those? How does Meridian get those people involved in the telehealth? Is it court ordered? Is it diversion? How is that?
The referrals may come in through court order.
Okay.
They may come in from the self-referral, or also we keep up relationships with other county agencies. So if they come across someone in their daily activities, they would refer us over to Meridian. And one step further, we do have this central access number that we have trained bachelor's level staff answering the phone, and they do some quick screenings, ask some questions, and then it goes from there as far as coming in for an assessment or sending them a link via email to get access into the.
Well, I think telehealth is really wonderful. I just really, I don't know, first thought I had was accountability. It's easy to sit in a group and be accountable to somebody else, but on the phone, I don't know how accountability comes in, but I'm sure you're addressing that. Y'all are a very smart organization, and you'll get to that. You'll know if somebody's trying to flim-flame you or not.
It is a common question, and what we do is we certainly meet everyone there attending on the screen, and we go with just for an example, on a substance abuse group, they'll go around either in order or out of order. They'll do a mix. So when you're called on, if you're not paying attention, it will be evident. And of course, that's noted and addressed on the individual session, and even reporting out if they're involved with law enforcement.
Well, thank you for your services, and I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your questions.
You good? Commissioner Adamsack?
Do we have this in the budget? Or do we have the original number? So the 55,000 is in what we
No,
already?
sir, their information came in April, which is a required match of the legislature dollars that are provided for Putnam County citizens, so it was incorporated.
Thank you. My only question for you is, and I appreciate everything you're doing, any group that is trying to help the addicted or those who have mental health concerns in our community, at every level, even those providers that bring in people from outside, because any help to anyone in those situations benefits our community and our country. My question is, what are we doing? It sounds like when I listen to your group and other groups, most of what we're doing is reactive. What are we doing to be proactive and try to find those people that may want help, but they haven't been arrested, they haven't gotten in trouble, they haven't, they're just out there and maybe they're casual drug users today and they may become addicts later. What are we doing as a community, or as your Meridian team specifically, because you're the one that's in front of us? I've asked this of a few other people, and I've yet to get a great answer from anyone, to try to go after those people before maybe they get to the point of hardcore addiction where they get arrested or something happens. And maybe you have a plan for that already. Thank you.
Thank you. So the two main avenues that drives that prevention is what we refer to as actually prevention, and that could be on a couple different tiers. One, if it's you're just, say, going to a school and working with students in the school on education, how to make good choices, how to build up their social skills, how to be decisive in basically breaking down a lot of myths that the children may hear, like a lot of people do drugs, or I want to do them. So they have curriculums, evidence-based curriculums that we have, that we actually go into the schools wherever we are provided funding. The other part is outreach, where we stay, when any kind of community event we will come that we're aware of, we'll register, set up a table. In fact, we have one coming up with a faith-based initiative here in Belaca that we're all scheduled and registered for. That way we have information, we have staff at the table, and we're talking with the general public as they come by. That's another avenue to do it. And of course, through advertising, built a lot of kind of traditional advertising methods, radio, billboards, etc. And then of course we stay active on Facebook and all the social media. And we do get a lot of questions coming in through social media, and that way we can have that availability for them to make that first call. We also do something called, and this is certainly, we would love to be able to offer this up, something called mental health first aid. We have instructors that you go and get certified for, and it's teaching the lay person how to identify and communicate with persons who may be exhibiting early signs of mental health and substance abuse issues, or even be vulnerable for that. And we have youth modules, law enforcement modules, and adult modules. So that's another evidence-based practice and education on communication for recognizing it. And we're very proud of that. We've actually trained all the county employees in Alachua County. We just came from Levy County, actually training the bus drivers, in Levy County. So really it's for anybody, because it can be used for students, it could be used for family members, friends, community members. So I would say those are the three top ones.
So my follow-up to that would be, are we doing this in the Putnam schools currently?
We are not, because because there's, there has been a lack of services in this area. This is part of our way to expand, and we're working with also other community behavioral health centers such as ours collaboratively. Mr. Rawls is running we're having some really good monthly meetings, working with Stuart Marchman and Children's Home Society. Children's Home Society seems to have their foot in the door with the schools. We're certainly always there to help, so the collaboration is in process.
So there is a group getting in there, though, it just doesn't have to be
Yes,
merged.
there's Children's Home Society,
Excellent.
yes.
And how can we, as individual commissioners or the community members that are watching, how can we help get the word out to refer people to you, to refer, or any of the organizations, and how can we help with this? I mean, there's a lot of, like you said, community events where there is no one set up. Is there a way that we can get that information to you? Like, I know there's one coming up in Crescent City, there's one coming up in Pomona Park, there's one coming up in Flora Home. I mean, these outskirt areas from Belaca have as much need as Belaca proper does. And because this problem is not unique, it doesn't have borders. So anything we can do to help get you that message, please let us know.
Absolutely. Don Savoy, our CEO, apologized he could not be here. He had another presentation he would do. He is definitely open for direct emails right to him. He will make sure it happens. I will leave my card here also as well. I've been in Meridian 25 years, so I don't let anything go unnoticed. I will follow up and get that feedback to you, but we would love to be involved in any kind of events or organizations where we can get those outreach services in play and keep that ongoing. It is an ongoing process, of course, and that's what we're here for.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls?
So how many full-time staff do you have in Putnam County?
Right now, we have one full-time staff, but we have numerous that are posted. We are challenged with we're basically, as many fields are, we're unprecedented workforce shortage,
And I knew the answer to that. I just wanted to
yes.
wanted to shock value, because I think it's important for the commission to really know what's going on. The task force that we have that continues on from our first meeting July of last year, what was glaringly obvious is that we have a lot of folks that are willing to help at the table, but there's really no lines of delineation. And you'd mentioned Children's Home Society, Lutheran Family Services, they're willing to help. You got all these different groups. What I'm hoping to see is that everybody picks a lane and works in it, and we don't have all this overlap where you've got one person in Putnam County that's trying to address children's needs and adult needs. You've got the MAT clinic open up here now. Hopefully that'll bear some fruit. But at the same time, trading one addiction for another is not the answer. Getting folks into sobriety, getting them off of everything and then back to work. It should be our ultimate goal. But you mentioned that 85% of the people that you work with are below poverty rate. So that's about 500 plus or minus of the 750 you mentioned. What do y'all describe the poverty rate at right now?
I do not have the actual figure, but we do follow the state guidelines for
Okay.
poverty rate.
Do you see that number going up if you follow the poverty rate as we march forward to this $15 an hour minimum wage? Do y'all not see an increase in the number of people that fall into that definition of poverty?
We have seen an increase in the poverty level. It's unsure as we work up to the $15 an hour, hopefully that will address things. I'm not an economist, but I know that that's also going to create more money in the money source that's available and may keep prices up. So, and then of course they'll adjust that at that level. But we follow those guidelines. Yes, we do see that increasing. That's our projection.
Yeah, I mean, basic math says as the price of goods sold goes up, your price to the consumer goes up, your poverty level will get wider. Your job's going to is going to get bigger. It seems like, but I'm not saying that everybody that necessarily falls into the definition of poverty will succumb to substance use. But sitting at the meetings and listening, the one thing that's glaringly obvious is that substance use is a way of self-medicating, dealing with issues and stresses and strains on individuals and their families. So I don't know that there's an ultimate solution, but to me it seems like if we were to get all the groups together like we've been trying to do, and then everybody focus on one area. So you have acute care, residential treatment, forensic, psychiatric, medicated assistant treatment, and counseling. So I look at the MAT at 120, that's 122 patients, correct?
Yeah.
According to your numbers. And you have 129 for counseling, but the MAT patients, are they not getting counseling?
They are getting counseling. We definitely distinguish ourselves. If they're coming in
Right.
to get medication, it's required.
That was my understanding. So
Yes.
is there overlap? The 122 MAT, is 122 of the 129 on counseling are MAT patients?
Yes.
Okay.
The MAT would be inclusive of sessions, the individual counseling. That's pulling from mental health. We
Right.
could have delineated a little bit more. That's straight mental health. Without that, the MATs, it's inclusive.
So on top of the 122 with Matt, you have 129 that's straight counseling?
Yes.
Okay. Because when I started looking at this, I was going through this in my head last night, and I was going, this doesn't make sense, because I know there's a lot of overlap here, and it almost seemed like, you know, when you said you had 750 patients seen, and I'm looking at this going, I see about a couple hundred, you know, if you include the overlap, but that makes sense. So would it not make sense for y'all, especially with your limited staffing abilities, to not even attempt to focus on children right now? Let LSF and the Children's Home Society and those guys shift their focus, can maintain their focus on children, and then have that. And that, I guess for me, what I'm hoping for is one day you guys can all sit around the campfire, hold hands, and sing Kumbaya, and everybody pick their specialty and stay in it. It seems to me like you'd have a lot more effectiveness rather than being scattered like we talked about at that one meeting, where everybody's scattered trying to do a little bit of everything. Does that in some way diminish your income or your grants? Or
Well, we certainly are focusing with what we have right now with the substance abuse adult and filling that void. I would say as we work together, if there's a continued need, really ultimately comes down. When you're talking about overlap, there will certainly be funding coming down and being tapped into. But I mean, if somebody shows up and they've got with us and we're able to serve a child at that time, I feel that that's definitely better off. And just from being watching our fiscal, when we do get money coming down, this is where the Lutheran, the managing entity who handles all the money coming from the state, they basically put it in buckets. So they may say, Children's Home Society, you're getting the money for this money, indigent care, to serve the schools. Now, they'll also be billing Medicaid as well. And because we're also billing Medicaid, if we have a family come in at our door, we will still serve them. But to your point, we need to be as strategic as possible with these dollars coming down, and efficiency as definitely is something we want to maintain.
my last question, Do you guys do anything with the guardian ad litem program? Because that goes right straight to the children.
Yes. Well, we certainly, when we do work with Guardian Ad Litem program across our counties, not in Putnam, that's actually a different judicial circuit. But because we work so closely with child welfare, we have special funding that comes down through the state, through Lutheran Services, just to deal with those, to try to prevent them from going into child welfare, or if they're at risk of, or if they're in child welfare, and that's where we come across with the guardian ad litems. And they're considered a part of our treatment team. Their input we know is critical. They have an inside line with the youth and the parents, and they present at court, and that is all taken into account as we work with the families and the children that we're serving.
It seems to me like that's going to be a critical component going forward. We have a lot of kids that are in that system, and the services you provide, I would imagine all of them need that. But trying to get, if you've got 1 or 2 people working in Putnam County, that you've got more work than 2 people can handle as it is, let alone 1 person. So, my hope is that somehow the county commission decides to get involved and try to start focusing, getting areas of focus for groups, so we can take that money, put it into an area of focus. In your case, maybe it's adult, maybe it's MAT for adult, I don't know. And then with the other services, especially regarding children, because if you get them at a younger age and you get them on the mend, then you have less of an opportunity for them to fall into everything as a young adult or as an older adult. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions? Okay, Mr. Paulin, thank you so much for what you do in your presentation, okay?
Appreciate it,
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
thank you so much. Okay, we'll move down to item D. Ms. Julianne Young, Countywide project update. I'm just going to go ahead and mention, I received an email this morning. And Julianne, I know you're going to give a little bit about the Animal Control Center. If you could just kind of give us an update where we are with the design build process, just real quick, to answer one of the questions this lady has sent me. So thank you, Julianne.
Yes, sir. And just a reminder, this morning's project list is not intended to be every initiative or project underway by county staff or departments. It is intended to be a list of those of most priority or most concern to our citizens, administration, or the commission. With that, we will begin with administration has a port project. The barge port feasibility study was conducted by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is in progress. A consultant composed an economic report to reinforce the feasibility study and is pending submission to the Corps. The application for Port Infrastructure Development Program grant with the United States Maritime Administration has been submitted and is currently being reviewed. Staff has submitted the application to the Florida Ports Council as stipulated by Florida House Bill 907, which was signed into law by Governor DeSantis during this year's legislative session. Animal control facility. The conceptual plans are complete. The BOCC directed staff to pursue a design-build firm at the workshop. Staff is currently developing the specifications for the document needed to solicit those services. Building and Grounds has roofing projects, agricultural office, and governmental complex. The roofing project at the agricultural extension office is complete. The roofing project at the governmental complex is approximately 90% complete. The Department of Health has a clinic update. They're having a ribbon cutting ceremony on Thursday, August 25th at 8 a.m. at the Health Department for the unveiling of the new school-based mobile dental clinic. All are welcome to attend the ceremony. Emergency Service has the ISO rating project underway. On September 20th at 9 a.m., we will have our ISO on-site survey completed. We expect to receive the results of the countywide ISO rating approximately 6 months after the date of the survey. Information Technology Department has several projects underway. Workstation deployments are complete. The PC deployments for the Clerk of Court are complete for this year. The phone system E911 and caller ID updates are in progress. Networking is working to complete the E911 addressing and caller IDs for the phone system. The project is ongoing. Network security assessment is in progress. Network on a comprehensive assessment of our network and potential security issues. This is an ongoing project. Switch upgrades is in progress. Networking is replacing several aging switches this month for sanitation, public defender, and public works. Smart Cop map project is nearing completion. GIS has submitted their final map for review to Smart Cop, currently awaiting their feedback to roll it out. The Nutanix cluster is in progress. The hardware and the software setup is complete, and data migration is underway. Parks and Recreation has the Georgetown Riverfront Park project. UF IFAS served as a liaison to secure a graduate student at the University of Florida. The conceptual drawings, along with suggestions for completing certain requirements of the grant with the Florida Communities Trust, was presented to departmental staff in July. The consultants from the University of Florida are finalizing the documents. Once received, they will be presented to the BOCC. Flora Home Historic Park building. They have made quite a bit of progress from the Flora Home Clubhouse job site. A crew of electricians and plumbers on site were able to dig the required trenches to complete the following tasks. Electricity was run from the well to the power source. The water line was run from the well to the building. The electrical service was run from the power pole to the building. In addition, our volunteers installed installation of the building's interior. In the last month, they have spent nearly $9,000 on the project. They are actively seeking bids for drywall, interior painting, and installation, restoration of the antique hardwood flooring. Plans for the yearly fundraiser, the Flora Home Fall Historic Festival in October, are underway. They also plan to work with a corporate partner, Vulcan Materials, for assistance and funding for the completion of the clubhouse interior. In 2023, Palmetto Hall will celebrate its 100th birthday, and it is their plan to with assistance provided by the county to finally be able to celebrate the grand opening of the beautiful historic building. Parks and Recreation is a project, Pickleball at Triangle Park. Formal award was made by the BOCC on August 9th. The contract documents are in process. Construction will begin immediately following. Public Works has the Fort Gates Ferry Landing. Welding activities are underway. The project is still anticipated to be completed in October of 2022. St. John's Avenue resurfacing, Palm Avenue to CSX crossing at the Belaca Fire Department. The contract for CEI services has been awarded, and coordination with FDOT is underway to obtain and authorize for advertisement. Advertisement for construction services is anticipated to begin in September of 2022. County Road 310 bridge rehabilitation. The executed submerged land easements have been obtained from the state, and coordination with FDOT is underway to obtain authorization to advertise. Advertisement for construction services is anticipated to begin in September of 2022. Septic to sewer conversion phase 3. The pre-construction meeting has been completed and the notice to proceed is scheduled for September 1st. The project is anticipated to be completed by February 28, 2023. Sawyer, Salem, and Bull Green drainage projects. The final punch list items are being addressed. Dirt to pave fiscal year 2021. Paving activities on Tropic, Whitehall, Nancy, Lloyd, Lynn, Ida, Dixon, and Sandy are complete. The majority of Norwood is paved. Paving activities on North Lake George, South Lake George, Palm, and Atkins are anticipated to be completed by September 2nd. Cypress, Walt, Balsam are expected to be primed September 2nd for paving activities that are scheduled for September 19th. Construction activities on Darren are scheduled to begin in October, and all roads are scheduled to be completed by December of 2022. Dirt to pave fiscal year 2022. Engineering design service proposals were obtained and are being presented to the board during this morning's transportation workshop. If approved, the design activities are anticipated to be completed in 90 days for phase 1 and 160 days for phase 2. East Putnam drainage and flooding mitigation phases 1 through 4. Phases 1 and 2 are complete. Phase 3 construction activities are underway and anticipated to be completed by November 29, 2022. Phase 4 permitting and design activities are underway. St. John's Avenue drainage improvements, State Road 19 to County Road 309C. The notice to proceed has been issued and the contractor for construction services are scheduled to be completed in August of 2023. St. John's Avenue multi-use trail. Construction is anticipated to begin in September of 2023. South Palm Sidewalk, Druid Street to Silver Lake Drive. Coordination with FDOT is underway to acquire additional funds needed to complete the project upon determination of the actual bid amounts. Saratoga Harbor Drainage Project. Alternative means of completing the project are being presented during this morning's transportation workshop. James A. Long and Jenkins Middle School safe routes to school. 100% of the design plans are under review by FDOT. County Road 315 resurfacing project. 60% of the design plans are scheduled to be obtained in September, and the final design is expected to be completed by February of 2023. Port Buena Vista wastewater treatment plant conversion and sewer main extension. Advertisement for construction services is anticipated in September of 2022. Paradise Point sewer system hardening and generator installation. Advertisement for construction is anticipated in September of 2022. Countywide guardrail installation, repairs, and replacements. The award for construction contract has been completed, and the pre-construction meeting is anticipated for September of 2022. Countywide road resurfacing 2022. The recommendation to award is being presented during this morning's transportation workshop. Countywide striping project. The pre-construction meeting has been completed, and notice to proceed is scheduled for August 29th. East Belaca Septic to Sewer Project Phase 4. Public Works is currently waiting for a proposal from an engineering consultant to complete the design criteria package. Public Works anticipates having a criteria package complete in October and advertisement for a design build firm in November of 2022. Countywide Bridge Repairs 2022. The contract has been awarded and the pre-construction meeting is scheduled for September of 2022. East Belaca Water Plant Retrofit Project. The contract has been awarded and the pre-construction meeting is scheduled for September of 2022. Barden Ranchette Road Resurfacing Project. Advertisement for construction is anticipated at the end of this month. Sanitation has the Cell 4A construction project. The Cell 4A is now officially complete. That concludes my project updates.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Julianne.
Yes, sir.
A lot of different things going on in Putnam County. Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Julianne, you were kind of getting to the end of the list and talking pretty quick. So Barden Ranchette Road, we had talked about that, and I didn't get your date on that.
No problem. Our update is that advertisement for construction is anticipated within the next month.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. All right, before I move down to public comment on the agenda items, commissioners, make everybody sure that with the agenda, item A is item B on our consent agenda, and then the addendum change item B is item J on your agenda. And then the MSBU rate resolution and discussion of St. John's Harbor MSBU will be a separate item after the consent agenda, and I will have public comment then on that particular item. Okay? All right, so any individuals wishing to make public comment on the agenda items?
Well, we're listening for that, Mr. Chairman. So basically, item I on the consent agenda, the original consent agenda is now on the agenda, so we don't have to pull it. The MSBU discussion.
Yes, number 8.
All right, good.
So it'll be after the consent agenda. We'll have that as a separate item.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay? Okay, all right, no public comment on agenda items? Okay, so we'll move down to the consent agenda. And when we go to make the motion to pass all or some, we need to let Rich make a couple of comments on how to move forward with that, since we've had so many changes. So I'll start with Commissioner Adamczak. Any items you wish to pull?
No.
Commissioner Turner?
Not now that we've moved the MSBU to an item, no.
Okay. Commissioner Rawls?
Item K.
Okay. Commissioner Harvey?
I have none, sir.
And I have none. So,
Mr.
Rich,
Chairman, I'm ready to make a motion, so can I hear from attorney?
You're okay. Actually, Mr. Chair, you covered all the things that I was just making sure that the public was aware that with the addendum had been incorporated into the consent agenda so that people know what they're voting on. And for item K, just because we have two different agendas that Commissioner Rawls is pulling.
I only have one agenda. If there's another agenda, can I get a copy of it?
So there's the addendum, if not another agenda.
I was handed this agenda this morning.
That's the correct one.
Okay.
That's the right
that's the right one.
All right, that's what I'm working off of. Is that what we're all working off of?
Yeah.
I am
Right,
now.
so the central landfill is what you're pulling
Correct.
off. Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the corrected agenda as stated in our packet,
Item K,
without
A
item,
through L minus K.
excluding item K, I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay, got a proper motion to approve the agenda items A through L minus K, and a proper second by Commissioner Turner. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Commissioner Rawls, item K.
I just want to have a discussion on this. I'm ambivalent. Spending $90,000 more, I understand, obviously why we'd have to spend more in this environment, but, we're spending $500,000 a year for leachate transport. At some point, are we going to have a conversation regarding on-site leachate treatment It's been kicked around every now and then, and
That conversation has been going on for about 5 years now. The problem is to do anything with on-site leachate costs 2 or 3 or 5 times as much as what it does to haul it off-site. And it requires a tremendous amount of electricity, which we don't have yet. If we generated enough methane at this point, we could use that methane to try to treat the leachate, then we could do the plant. We're not there yet, but hopefully in the future, when we start producing enough methane that we can actually pays for us to capture it, then at that time, we would use that methane to work on our leachate and save us money.
so the leachate, we're talking $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million a year for us to treat our own? That would be our cost per year?
To treat our own, depending on what system we go with, and depending on what sort of entities we would have to work through. If you're going to go with a pre-treatment, like say we pre-treat it to the point where we could take it at our wastewater treatment plant, you're looking at somewhere between a $2.5 to $3 million investment.
Hold, stop, but what is an annual cost beyond the investment after, what do you think?
I'd have to get some numbers to it together for you, Commissioner. Before
That's
I
what I'm
say
driving.
it.
We're spending $500,000 if we leverage that, and,
Sure.
you know, what would that look like?
This year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That year that we had the 161 inches of rain
Yeah.
in that year,
Right.
it was almost $1 million in leachate haul-offs that year. So we haven't had the amount of rain this year.
So my question is, if we took what we're spending to haul it off, and we leverage that, and we, you know, I don't know how long the equipment lasts, you know, is it a 10-year longevity? I'm sure it's pretty rough on the equipment, but,
It's
you know.
the commissioner, it's not just leachate, it's also the same exact conversation we're having on the tires, and,
Mhm.
you know, the recycling them that we're looking into now, but we can't move forward until we get the stuff from DEP we're actively working on, and it's almost the exact same thing, is where do you focus your resources for the biggest savings amount that you can? So, you know, we've been talking about leachate for 5 years that I've been here that I know of, and hopefully we can come up with a solution better than just hauling it to Jacksonville and dumping it in their plant. But right now, we haven't been able to come up with a better solution than that at this time, that even over using a 5 to 8 year projected cost of current leachate cost versus what it would, what we could get out of it even over a 5 to 8 year period, we haven't been able to come up with a system yet that the costs weren't way higher than just hauling it off. The best thing that we could do would be to try to come up with capacity on the system, enough capacity on the system in East Belaca that would allow us to send some or all of our leachate to East Belaca, because capacity helps with the leachate problems on a volume basis. We don't have that yet, but that's another way to deal with it, because we don't have to pay ourselves to dump leachate. So, and the cost for transportation would only be to East Belaca instead of to Jacksonville. So, and we wouldn't have to pay the 9.5 cents a gallon. 9
Well,
cents a
that's what
gallon
it costs
that
to
we're
get rid of,
paying
yeah.
right now to
Transport
send
it.
the leachate to Jacksonville. So,
Yeah, but my question again is, you know, what are we really looking at? If we buy the equipment, we stretch the payments out over the longevity, expect longevity, you know, what are we actually looking at for operational costs? And maybe one day it does make sense, who knows?
Sure. No, and to Commissioner Turner's point, if we ever get to the point where we're going to try to take it to our own plant, it will determine what constituents we have to treat for in the pre-treatment process. If it's, you know, like arsenic is expensive to treat for.
Right.
If it's just ammonia and BOD, it's simple, you know, air regenerations and things like that. So it depends on what we have to treat for when we get to that point. Historically, if you go to like an evaporation system, it's expensive when you have to buy the natural gas yourself. The plant that I actually built up in South Carolina, once we got to the point where we used our own gas and we had the infrastructure in place, we did it for about 4.5 cents up there. So, I mean, it just, once we get, there's a couple of things that have to take place, Commissioner Ross, and then we can better make those determinations. And you know, that's something that we want to try to work on or working towards here in the next 2 to 4 years.
Okay.
Because we're supposed to trigger to where we have to put a gas system in the next 4
Well, you
to
do
5
have a
years.
tap right there in your backyard.
Yeah, so that's what we got to determine, what's going to give us the biggest bang for our buck for our gas.
I'll take credit for that.
Okay, well, I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Commissioner Adams, right?
Yeah, I'm hopeful that other things that we have planned transpire and maybe leachate declines. So I definitely think for this year, we have to move this forward. I think there's a whole series of dominoes that occur if we start treating it there, then bring it to East Palaca, then you're talking about capacity issues at East Palaca, figuring out how to expand that. I think you'd push beyond just what Jay would be involved in to what our Public Works is involved in. I think we're probably talking, from the research I've done on sewage treatment and expansion of that, and then remember, a lot of that still comes back to the dump as well, because it would be a big circle. I think you're talking tens of millions of dollars, to be quite honest with you, based on the capacity we're at today.
I'd have to see the numbers.
And things like that, but, so I'm all for this at this time. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second?
Okay, got a proper motion to move this item forward, item K by Commissioner Turner and a second by Commissioner Rawls. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, and saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes. Okay, we're going to take a 3-minute break.
Glad you just said that, because I was going to take one anyway.
Take a 3-minute break before we go to the MSBU. Commissioners' regular meeting, and we'll move down to item 8, which is the MSBU rate resolution, approving the assessment roll and the discussion of the St. John's Harbor MSBU. And I'll ask Ms. Julianne Holmes-Young to bring us to how we got here to this point.
Yes, sir, Commissioner. At a most recent workshop where we passed rate resolutions for all of the MSBU's, there was a request by members of the St. John's Harbor MSBU to explore the desire to abolish that MSBU. During that workshop and some conversation thereafter, the ordinance that was being referenced, which dictated or spelled out a percentage rate, has been reviewed, and that ordinance does not apply in this instance. That ordinance governs the creation of the MSBU's, but not in situations where we are seeking to abolish them. The letters were sent out. Of that area, there are 389 parcels, 389 letters were sent out. Of that, we received 106 letters back, the response rate of 27.25%. Of the responses, 75.47 voted to support abolishing it. However, that's only 20.56% of the population being served casting a vote to abolish that. You have two items that need to be addressed. The resolution to certify the rolls will certify rolls for all MSBU's. So that is the first item that needs to be taken by the board, and we need to go ahead and certify the rolls for each of them. Then with respect to how we handled this year's St. John's Harbor MSBU fee, the commission has two options. One, leave the MSBU in existence as it stands with the rate which was set by Resolution 22061, or you can direct staff to advertise a modification to Rate Resolution 22-61 to reduce that fee. And we would bring that back at the September 13th meeting, which would allow us to certify it to the property appraiser's office prior to the September 15th date required certification.
Okay.
Deadline, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
So just one quick question.
Yes, sir.
The resolution that was brought to us today includes the $200 and something for St. John's County not being abolished?
Yes.
Harbor, yes, okay, thank you, that's all I had at this time.
Okay, do we need to certify that first, and then we
Yes.
can modify that?
You're certifying the rolls. You've already set the rate resolution. That's already done. We need to certify the rolls for all the MSBU's, and then you can direct staff how you want to handle St. John's Harbor MSBU.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Harvey?
Right,
Thank
So
you,
the-
Mr. Chairman. Ms. Julian, I
sorry.
have a question. I got that.
Okay.
So I got the idea that we need to approve everything or disapprove it and then come back. I figured that one out. The Acosta Creek, though, we also talked about a lesser service down there. Are we not going to have that conversation too? Or we talked about, because they have already put a sign up on their big sign that the MSBU has been, I want to say modified or something to lesser road improvement. Out in front of Acosta Creek, there's a big red sticker sign over their sign that said road improvements have been modified. We had a talk about trying to make it as an as-needed or 4 times a year. Remember that?
So Ms. Nilda is the expert,
Right,
but I believe,
I actually just had a meeting out there, and my understanding of what was across from there is that the actual marina is closed for remodeling. I didn't see a sign that
Okay.
stated any.
Well, when you're driving 55 and people are on your butt like they drive anymore, it's
Yeah.
hard to read everything that a sign says. So I just assumed it was part of that. Thank you for clarifying.
That's what I think. I think you're correct, Neil. That's what the sign says. But I thought there was going to be some discussion with that group about a modified,
That's what I was under.
a modified
I
fee.
don't recall the date. I send you an email on that, but for now, they were staying at the current rate, which is the 110.86, and then we were going to bring it back to the board for further discussion.
Okay.
So if we bring it back, we're not ready to have the discussion on Acosta Creek today.
Not today, no, sir. I'm
What's
not.
our drop dead date on certifying the roll?
so your deadline is September 15th to the property appraisers. We would have to have a resolution But the agreement on Acosta Creek was to leave it status quo. Last year to this year, they'll receive the same as they have been, which is a reduction in service from what was originally proposed. So Acosta Creek is reflected as the board directed in what you have before you.
Gotcha, thank you. Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
for that clarification.
Please
Thank you,
keep
Mr.
in
Chairman.
mind, that September 15th date sounds like a lot of time, but there's advertising and notice requirements that go along with that. So whatever changes you as a commission want to see happen have to really be given direction to staff today.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Adams-Act?
So I guess my question is for the attorney. I understand both options that Julianne had outlined for us, but isn't there a third option that we could vote to abolish it based on what the board could make a motion and vote to abolish it without any input from the community if we so choose. So we could follow through with what we told the people in that MSBU, even though it doesn't align particularly with that. We could follow through and say, because you got your 50% plus one of people that returned, whether it's in our ordinance or not, could we choose to make a motion and vote to abolish it based on what we had said that we would do?
Not today.
Not today.
So the same reason, because you still have notice requirements, it would take an ordinance to abolish the MSBU because it was an ordinance
gotcha.
that brought it into creation. That ordinance requires 10 days notice. So with that 10 days notice, because the public has a right to come in and weigh in, I mean, I don't know if the public would come to speak in favor or opposition to it, and then you, as a commission, take that information to make your decision as to how you wish to vote.
So let me reword it. The third option then would be that we would put out public notice for a meeting 10 days from now to abolish it.
We would just use that September 13th date,
Does that give us enough time? Because does they have to have two meetings or just one?
just one.
Okay. Thank you. So that is kind of a third option of not putting it out for a complete vote of everyone in the MSBU and all that.
That's really part and parcel to what Julianne described as the second option, as you reduce it, and as you reduce it, then it's on. You reduce it, and then as you reduce it down, then it goes to the option as to whether or not the board decides to abolish it. Can y'all hear him?
Thank you.
You gotta speak into it, Rich, even though it works down there at arm's length, doesn't mean they can hear you out there.
Okay.
But mine really doesn't.
Thank you for the clarification.
Mine really doesn't work. If I get too close, it goes to making all kinds of noise, so.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Turner?
Okay. Number one, I never made the deal that you just said, and I didn't think you did either. My deal was that if it went under the same outline as that we used to put in an MSBU, then I would go along with it. I would actually make the motion. That's not what has happened. They got 389 members of that MSBU, best I can tell. 106 sent it in, and 75% of those said they wanted abolished. That's only 20% of the total members of the deal. That's not the deal I made here, guys. I made the deal that if they got 50% plus one of the residents of that place that they wanted it abolished, then I would make that motion. That's not what has happened here. And I just need everybody to absolutely understand, if this MSBU goes away, you're not gonna get anything done at all because it's Class 2 roads. So that means you're not gonna get grading done unless Public Works deems it to be impassable. That's what Class 2 roads are. So that's not the deal I made at all, is what has happened here. What has happened here, they got about a third or less of the total parcel owners responded, and 74% of those, 20%, actually said they wanted to abolish. I'm not going there. I think that we need to get at least a 50-50 or be in that neighborhood or something. I just can't get there. So, thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Commissioner Rawls?
You know, this can's been kicked around since I got elected. It's been kicked in the right direction, the wrong direction, every direction you can imagine. I've asked several times for staff to come back with the cost of what it would actually cost to pave the roads. We've got no information on that. One of the MSB members just asked me, or just said, we're not able to get any money from dirt to pave. I said, that's not true. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of misguided interpretations, misguided impressions. There's a lot of people that just don't know what the heck is going on here. And I think that's the biggest part of the problem, is the people that sit up here are tasked with the responsibility of being able to guide and direct, and we don't have all the information that we need. I think we're making a big mistake if we abolish this MSBU right now. Taking it down to $0 would be a step in the right direction. It would give us then the latitude to abolish it in the future, and the folks that live in St. John's Harbor would not have to pay anything. But I think that they need more information. I think we all need more information. I don't think this has really been given its due consideration. I think that the commission should direct staff to come back with all of the numbers so we once and for all can have an intelligent conversation about what the future of their roads look like. If it is going to be just as cheap or less to pave it, then why don't we have that information in front of us right now? If the answer is they live on dirt roads for the rest of their lives, then that's what it is. But I agree with Commissioner Turner. I don't think that cutting your nose off to spite your face is a corrective action. I think if we write the MSBU down to $0, pass it as that, you don't have any liability for the next year. And then we can sit there and figure out, and it gives us time to figure out how to abolish this thing properly. But if nothing else, get you all the information you need to make a really good, truly informed decision. Because at the end of the day, I'd like to see you guys have roads that are passable with ditches that work, whether they're paved or not.
Commissioner Turner?
I agree with part of that. If we write it down to 0, that means they're gonna get 0 services next year, 0. Because we agreed this year they ran out of money to go finish up the year for them. So unless we agree to pay for their services next year, you can't bring it down to $0. Now, if the $213 is the issue here, and that's the issue, and they want to bring it down to 100, half of that, then fine. I wouldn't mind voting against for the $100 bringing it down, but they're only going to get $100 services. We did the right thing this year by taking over that MSBU when they ran out of money. That's the right thing to do. It's not the right thing to do for us to take the subdivision into the system and start paying for that subdivision when they had Class 2 roads that were never in the system to start with back when they put the MSBU in place. I understand that the residents would like to be in the county system. That is not on the table in any of the discussions that we're working at, that we're going to take Class 2 roads and bring them into the county system. And I'm not willing to vote yes on taking over their MSBU costs for next year. You may as well just bring them in the system, which I'm not willing to do, because they were Class 2 roads to start with. So if that being the case, if they want to go back to Class 2 roads, then they got to meet the threshold. This commissioner believes that what needs to happen is that the committee, the MSBU committee, needs to get together, and if they decide they want a lower level of service than what they could have with the additional monies that are going to be funded, then they come up with a plan. And then I would almost bet this commission would vote to have nil to how much that plan would cost that the committee came up with, which could possibly reduce it. It may be less gradings, it may be less material than what's being bid in the current project. So, you know, I just think we need to keep that in mind. Yes, the service might be a little higher than what y'all wanted this year, but I think we need to go on and do the resolution today, and then that'll give us between now and September 15th to actually set the final rate. Is that what I heard?
No, sir, you've got two things going today. You need to pass the roll, which is simply defines the area of the MSBU, who lives within each district. So the roll is here. The rate resolution, you've already passed once at the new rate. If you desire to amend that, you would need to tell staff today, because a change in rate requires 20 days of advertisement. And we have exactly 20 days from today till your next meeting So we would need to know exactly what your proposed rate is going to be today if you amend it from what the board has already set as the rate.
Okay, well, I feel like that possibly some of the members of St. John's Harbor have been given some inaccurate information. And I don't know that to be sure, but I'm telling you right now, the current information and the way that it current stands, if they don't pay an MSBU fee or abolish their MSBU this year, they're gonna get 0 services on their roads or maintenance or anything else unless it becomes impassable, because they're Class 2 roads, were I told correctly? So if that's correct, so y'all are gonna go from a little bit of maintenance to paying for quite a bit more maintenance under the current plan, or coming in and making a plan to have less maintenance and cost less money, and it's either that plan or having no service unless your road becomes impassable. That's the 2 options that we're talking about today. Anything else y'all been told is not accurate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Harvey?
Mr. Chairman, are we, I guess are we going to go ahead and do the resolution first and then have the discussion about St. John's Harbor? Because I have some things I would like to talk about.
We need to pass the roll, is what we need to do. Okay.
Move.
Okay, got a proper motion to pass the roll by Commissioner Turner.
I'll second.
Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Harvey. Commissioner Rawls, you want to make comments on the roll, or and then we can...
Well, regarding St. John's, but one question I have is if we pass the roll, how does this impact today's deliberations regarding St. John's?
We're going to go into it.
What I understand that we would, they're 2 separate issues, so we would...
This does not include St. John's.
No, it doesn't.
Well, it
It
does include
does,
St. John's.
but then we're going to have a discussion on that of what to do with it, whether to abolish it, well, not abolish it, whether to take it to 0, modify it, advertise it, it's going to be modified, those options, correct?
Your rolls are the number of parcels and units,
Okay.
not how much you charge. That's your rate.
Okay.
So then you're going to have a rate discussion, I presume, after you certify the rolls.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm good.
So, Mr. Chairman, let me, to clarify, we're only passing the partials and the units, not the rate right now, correct?
You already passed the rate, but if
Right,
you want
right.
to amend it,
Right, we're just clarifying the roles right now.
yes.
No rates involved. Thank you.
Okay, Administrator Sugg, you want to make a comment on that, or on the...
No, sir, I'll wait until we get to the St. John's Harbor, but there is some clarification for information I'd like to share with the board at the appropriate time.
Okay, we've got a proper motion, a proper second to approve the roll. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, can saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. You want to make a comment before we move into this will be a discussion of the St. John's Harbor MSBU.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I'll make my comments at this point. It goes to the information that was requested regarding the cost for paving of the roads. I do believe at a previous commission meeting or workshop that those discussions were had right here in this room. I asked our Assistant Public Works Director, Mr. Nimitz, if that conversation was had, yes. We're looking at about 500,000+ per mile right now, and that discussion was had here in these chambers. So just want to make sure for the record that we understand that that information that was requested has been provided to the commissioners.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to give the people in St. John's Harbor, some of y'all, I don't know who took a drive with me out in Interlochen. Raise your hand if you're in the... That's fine, that's fine. Took a ride with me out in Interlochen. When I first got here, the rule of thumb on MSBUs was we're not going to pave a road inside of an MSBU unless all the roads get paved at one time. Now, that might sound simple to you at 4.4 miles, but I have MSBUs in my district that are 95 miles of roads. That would have never took place. So I said, okay, let's do this then. These people are paying a fee to better themselves, and they're paying sales tax, and they're not getting the benefit of these road money. Yes, that's true. So let's just abolish the MSBUs completely, county take over grading all of them. Well, that wasn't in the budget. So the board has worked very diligently in the past few years of allowing dirt to pave inside of an MSBU. Currently, in West Putnam, there is a road just got done 2 weeks ago. There was another one that we piggybacked off the town of Interlaken, and we got a grant for the Department of Transportation. So we are currently able to do that. And the price is around $550,000, but right now with supply chain issues, we're seeing prices a little bit higher. So we're going to see that going into it. So it can be done, and it is being done. And those people who access their property off of a paved road are getting a $0 assessment. So let's just pick a number. You're paying $45 a year for grading, and now that the county has come in there, used dirt to pave money, and you access your property off that paved road, your assessment's $0. You don't pay an assessment anymore. So that we are seeing that taking place, and it's been a good move by this board to move that forward, because the people that live on those roads not only paid themselves to better themselves, they alleviated the county money, and they also pay sales tax. So they get the benefit now currently, and that can happen. So I just wanted to kind of set the stage for that conversation has happened. This board has allowed that, and we're moving forward on that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Adams, right?
Yeah, and I just wanted to make note, even on dirt to pave, I think we're only doing, what, less than 7 miles a year total countywide. So that particular subdivision wouldn't be a complete dirt to pave in 1 year of dirt to pave, because each commissioner splits that. And we've been doing a good job, I think, of splitting it fairly evenly. So each of us only gets a little bit over a mile, maybe close to 2 miles each. So there is no MSBU that would be fully paved under dirt to pave, just to be clear. Just a point of reference. Thank you.
Not in District 2.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls?
So, again, the question was, what would it cost to pave the roads in that MSBU? We don't have that answer. If we throw $500,000 a mile at it, you've got about 4 miles of roads. That's going to be about $250 per person or per parcel per year, which is about the same thing as it would cost to grade it. So, at one point, the board had a discussion about chipping in on that. If we put money in there, 25% or so, that would drive that cost down even further. Y'all are shaking your heads yes, like you would be in favor of doing this, but abolishing MSBU doesn't make that happen. So, I would encourage you guys to slow the roll a little bit. Let's have a special meeting where we have all the numbers, all the information at hand, and make an informed decision. I personally feel like this lays at the feet of the commission. I think that we failed the citizens at some point along the way because we didn't go to you guys and say, look, costs are going up, your roads are failing. I was attending meetings back in early 2019 when I first got elected. This was being discussed. So I don't know that the MSBU system, the way we currently manage it, is the way to go in the future. Maybe it is. We've learned a valuable lesson that if you don't increase over time little bits, you get hit really hard. But at this stage of the game, it looks to me like it might be in your favor to pave and have a whole different conversation. But, you guys are the ones who would have to pay for that. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One thing when the MSBU started many, many, many years ago, they were started because they were going to augment some of the county services that were being done. They actually started out in the West End because with a pilot program based on the fact that the county wasn't getting the work done as the citizens needed it. So we started that, and Commissioner Rawls is right. They were never indexed to make that price go up. We've worked very diligently the last couple of years to look at that. So what you're seeing the rate is today, yes, you're seeing a tremendous rate increase, but you're seeing it based on services, kind of like the garbage fee, if you will, solid waste fee. It's the cost of doing business. The problem with your area as well as Acosta Creek, which is down outside of Belaca, is it's so far out that the contractors, just by the time they haul the equipment out there to do the work, it's not really, if you had a grader that parked on the side of the road out there, it probably wouldn't cost you this kind of money. But it's the mobility of the equipment. And the two contractors that were doing it, one just didn't want to do it anymore. He got verbalized and he got beat up out there quite a bit. And he just said, it's not worth my time hauling my equipment there and down south to do the work. So to be honest with you, do I think the rate's inflated? Yes, I do. I know it's inflated. I know it's not going to cost. But the problem is finding a contractor that's willing to come out there. These products were put out to bid. Now, I do believe, Julianne, these are based on, these contracts are, I don't want to say as needed, but they pretty much are as needed, correct?
No, you're absolutely correct.
So we could, if as Commissioner Rawls said, if you only want 4 services a year, the contractor already has it built in his system, and it could be, we could say 4 times a year. We could say 6 times a year. So it doesn't need to be the 12 times a year, but you kind of got caught up in what was happening. And what was happening is, in your area, for example, you got a lot of lime rock on your roads, okay? Some of the other MSBUs couldn't afford to do that. So they didn't do that. They just stuck with clay and the ability to grade, okay? That's all they could afford. You got trees in the right of way. Some of those MSBUs have been clearing the trees out of the right of way. So I think the board was trying to get to a standard where everybody's doing something, grading, mowing, cleaning the ditches at least once a year or more times a year than that, because that wasn't being done. And the Citizens Committee proved that to be a fact, that some were doing this, some were doing that, but the citizens were sold on the total package. And I think that's what's important to me, is that as a commissioner, if we're going to charge you a fee, or you're charging yourself a fee, you should get those services rendered that you're paying for. And the committees were doing a very good job, but at the end of the day, we need some standardization on those MSBU committees. And this one got caught up in the grand scheme of things, and it's just kind of way far out. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for public comment on this item. I am going to, since we're time, please hold to your 3 minutes, but if you'll come forward when I call your name and state your name and address in the microphone, and please speak clearly in the microphone. I'm not talking well today. First person is Miss Ann Wallace.
Commissioners, thank you very much. I'm a little nervous, so, please.
Can you state your name?
Give me a minute. My name is Ann Wallace. I live at 134 Bowfin Drive in Belaca. I'm a recent volunteer on the MSBU committee. I'd like to keep it that way. I wanted to start by piggybacking on what Commissioner Rawls said about what you said at the beginning about real estate and how it's growing here in Putnam County. And I just want to piggyback on that by saying that our roads in Putnam County are the #1 public asset that we have. And key to keeping that asset of value is the maintenance of the roads. Abolishing the MSBU is not going to help us keep the value up on the roads or keep our property values up. In fact, it's going to diminish. I came down from Clay County. I'm a real estate broker. I've been here in North Florida for 25 years. And I really think that here at St. John's Harbor, we're really in a great situation that we're very, very close to Green Cove Springs and the expressway that's going to connect the whole area of Northeast Florida. And the one great thing about the IT and the website for Putnam County is there's so much information. I really, really, really have been able to dig in and get some of the information that you guys have been asking for. So the one thing that I looked at was how many actual units we have in St. John's Harbor. And I went one by one and looked at all 357 parcels, and we have 418 lots. That's 418 benefit units. Some of them actually have consolidated. So in fact, we end up with 405 units paying the MSBU. So to that end, we look at how much money would come into the kitty, so to speak. And I know that we've got a lot of very angry people, and it's quite a jump. And I think that what you said, we're paying a premium. So one of the things that I heard the number, and I think maybe it was Commissioner Turner, of $100, reducing that amount to $100. And what we would get for $100 is that, and this is according to the estimate and the bid that was given by Onyx, is that we could have our roads graded 4 times a year, and we could take care of the ditches, and we could have $8,250 in reserve. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ann. Okay, okay, real quick, Commissioner
Any
Rawls.
questions?
You said 354 parcels, correct?
No, I said, yeah, I said 357 parcels.
I don't know if it matters, but we've got 389. What's the difference? I mean, I know it's 30, but what's the?
Well, what I can do is I went one by one.
Okay.
And I counted each street.
386.
I don't know that that's the issue.
Yeah, that's,
Well, I'm trying to wrap my head around, because one of the issues that was brought up last time was people paying by parcel, and some people pay more than others. Then you said there was 405 units.
Correct.
Is that
So
because
there's,
there's 405 lots that have multiple, some have multiple parcels that make up the
correct,
difference? Okay.
correct. Yes,
Okay,
and
so-
it's like I say, I went one by one.
Well, for me, mathematically, if I'm trying to be equitable with everybody, I divide by number of units, not by number of parcels. So everybody that has a driveway pays an equal share. Okay. All right, thank you.
So
Okay, thank you, Ms.
Let
Ann.
me just clarify that
Okay.
we have 357 parcels. Some of these parcels have 2 lots, 3 lots, 4 lots. So there's a total of 418 lots. Of those 418 lots, some of the lots have been consolidated. And some of the lots, just a very, very few, one parcel has 4 lots. And that does not have an MSBU because it has access from West River Road. So to qualify in the MSBU, you actually have to be on the road that we're talking about. So
Okay.
when you look at that, there's really is an adjustment from that 418, and then that's taking it to about 405. So there should be 405 paying according to the property appraiser's website. So
Okay,
if
all right.
that's wrong, please take it up with the
Okay,
property
all right.
appraiser.
Thank you, Ms. Ann.
Okay.
Okay,
And I just really want to just say one thing, is that there's a lot of people investing in there. One person has 16 lots, a real estate agent from St. Augustine. We're ready and primed to really kind of pop. 80% of the lots are vacant. So you talked about affordable housing.
Okay, Ms. Ann, we
Sorry.
got to move on. Thank you.
Thank
Okay, next speaker, Jim Mosley, I believe. He left? Okay. Jerry Ryan. If you can please state your name and address for the record and speak clearly in the microphone, sir.
I'm Jerry Ryan. I live at 163 Bonita Drive. The problem I have with Mr. Turner's 50% deal is if people aren't sending the stuff back, then they don't care enough to even worry about what's going on. When you have 75% of the people that really care, that sent the letters back, you can't say, you can't put it the way you put it. Because if people aren't going to send the letters back, then how can you include them?
Maybe because they don't mind paying the $213 a year to make your roads
Do you
better.
think?
Yeah, I do.
Do you think that that's the case?
Yes, sir, I truly do. I believe the people that read the letter, he asked me, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
I'm
I
with you.
truly believe that the people that read the letter didn't mind paying the $213 a year, didn't send their letter back because they don't mind having better services and higher level of services instead of cutting them down to 100 or 0 and hoping the county comes and gives them some charity.
I'm going to tell you right now, you need to come out there and look around because nothing gets done. We've been paying money and
But you
nothing has
haven't
gotten done.
You haven't had any money to date.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so hopefully with this new money, you'll be able to do the things and fix your roads and fix the services. That's what I'm saying. You're saying, I haven't had a good enough service, so let's not do any service at all in the future.
Well, we might as well not have any service at all.
In the past, yes, sir, I don't disagree with you.
All we get done, all you people do is talk and want us to pay more and more and more. That's all I'm hearing. The people that cared sent the letters back in. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ryan. Kathleen Johnstone?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name
Morning.
is Kathleen Johnstone. I live at 148 Beaufin Drive. I have a quick question. We have seen that many of the properties that are in St. John's Harbor are not only people owning multiple lots, but there are also many that are vacant, that there's no one there. So you send a letter to that vacant lot. Who's going to pick it up and respond to it? There's nobody there even
Address
to
of
respond to
record.
it. Excuse me?
It's the it's address of record.
Address of
Whoever
record?
you would send their tax bill to, that's who would get the letter.
Okay. And then, is there any plan or anything that can be provided to the residents of St. John's Harbor about what that additional assessment is going to provide us?
Yes, can't y'all go over that right now for us? Absolutely we can. You get a lot more service than what you've had in the past. Can
But
we
that's very vague.
Nelda to
Can you be
come and-
specific?
Nelda to come up here and give us an outline of what the new bid for services was. It was throughout the county on every MSBU, and it's a much higher level of service than what y'all have had in the past.
Again, keep in mind, all these are optional, as you all stated earlier. It's at the discretion of the committees. Grading, routine basis, materials, ditch cleaning, tree clearing. They can replace existing culverts, mowing.
That's it.
I think that's pretty much it.
That's
Did
it.
I say material?
Yeah, but,
Okay.
but I think the question is the minimum level of service that the contracts were bid on. Maybe that's a Mike Nimitz question, but we did it like every MSBU in the county got bid on the same level of service, which was like one grading a month, so much towards maintenance, so much towards drainage, so much towards different things. So that is
That's
what
what
I
you're-
think she's asking. What are you gonna actually do with her money?
The new fee
Different than what you've been doing with it in the past, because there wasn't any.
was set for 12 months of grading, 4 cycles of mowing, and 100 cubic yards of material. That's what the new rates, the new fees were set at. And then the 15% reserve, excuse me.
So you understand, this is a lot more service than what you've had in the past, so you're gonna get a lot more for the $213 than you got. But if the committee got together and decided that they wanted half that much service, that they didn't want a grading every month of the roads, they only wanted a grading every 2 months of the road, but they needed the reserves still or whatever, they could maybe drop the price down from the $213. But if you're getting your money's worth, how many people actually think is upset over the actual $213? Is that the issue here, that it's $213? No, it's what you've said in the past is that you haven't been getting the services for the amount of money that you've been spending, and that's what you're upset about. So if that's the case, then if you're getting a higher level of service, do you mind spending a little more money?
I think that there's a an understandable level of skepticism at this point that people are going to get what they pay for, because they haven't
I
seen that in
understand
the
that.
past. There hasn't been any evidence of that in the past.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
You haven't
I
had
mean,
the
we're
money
kind
in
of taking it on faith that we're going to be putting more money in through this assessment, and that we actually are going to get some benefit for that.
But this money doesn't go to the county to be spent on county services. Whatever money's there, you're gonna spend on your subdivision. If your committee decides to do it a third of the time this year, then they're gonna have enough money next year to where they could drop the assessment way down if you've got enough money in your fund to give you the projected services. That's what we've been trying to explain from day one, is that if you back it back down to zero, you're gonna get zero services. If you put it at the 213 and build your fund up, and you decide, or your committee decides that that's way too much money, and they don't need that many services, you could come in next year and say, look, we don't need but half them services. Well, if you only paid for half the services this year and it was adequate for your needs, then next year you could go to zero, because you've already got enough fund to build up that year for services for that year. But if you back it back down to zero or abolish, I promise you there's very, very few people in that subdivision that's gonna like living there. I promise you that. Because you're gonna go to no services unless your road is impassable.
There are some days that it almost is.
I understand that. All right,
Thank you.
all right, before we move on, Commissioner Rawls, real quick, and then we'll go to Commissioner Adams.
I just want to say that I don't want anyone in this room to not understand that I am the most anti-government government employee you've ever met. I understand that you don't trust the government. I understand why. Commissioner Turner's right. You're going to generate about $90,000. It's your money to spend. My concern, if I was you, would be what happens the next year. If you're able to reduce the cost of services, say y'all found a contract that would work cheaper, but does the price go down? You know, I don't think that we've really had enough conversations, and I think it's bad that it has to be the St. John's Harbor MSBU that everything is predicated on, but we need to have these conversations. We need to go through these drills so we can understand what it is we're dealing with. But again, I think the future is what we should also be looking at, not trying to solve the problems that are immediately in front of us, but looking at the long-term objective of the MSBU, which is your citizens group.
Okay, Commissioner Adams,
I don't know. I think the important thing is this is your money. Your committee decides how to spend it, when to spend it. If you say don't do a grading this month, we don't do a grading. We don't take that money away from you. If you do not use it, it is still in your reserve of money. And if you don't use any of it, let's say you decide not to do anything after you pay the $200, whatever it is, all year, that money goes forward to next year. It doesn't leave and come into the county. It doesn't go away. So it's completely up to your committee. I'll use one of my MSBUs as an example. Their committee chose to not grade for a while and not to do things, and because they needed some culverts done and some ditching done, and they said, hey, we really don't need the grading for these 3 months, and they chose, as a committee, they voted, they met together, and they chose to do some culverts and to do some ditching and do some edging around a fence line, I believe it was. That was their choice. This is entirely, once you get that money, it is entirely up to your committee and your community to decide how to spend it. So the government is not involved in that part of it. So I want to get that out of the way right now, because you guys all, whether you participated in it, I have no idea, but it is up to all of you as citizens to work with that committee and decide how to use that money. It is not up, we don't tell you how to use it. So I'm just letting you know that. That's a fact.
Okay, Commissioner Harvey, and then we'll move on to the next speaker.
Commissioner Adams said it well, and I'll say it real quick. This is not anti-government. This is the Citizens Committee, the best that we can possibly come up with. It tells you how you want to spend your money. And I'm sorry, Ms. Johnson, that you haven't seen services, but the committee chose that. They chose to put lime rot. They chose to do things that other MSBUs couldn't. So we came up with a standardization of what needs to happen. But let me tell you the horror story. On one of mine with 95 miles, the Citizens Committee decided not to ever do anything on some roads. Well, wouldn't that be unfair if you live in New Jersey, you pay a fee every year, and you want to come see your Florida property, and you can't even access your road that you paid for? Now, that's an abomination to me, that you paid for a service that you don't even get a benefit from. This whole MSBU is called Municipal Service Benefit Unit, okay? So imagine how the people in New Jersey come down to Florida to retire, and now the MSBU committee has to spend thousands of dollars to open up a road where it could have only spent $100 a year or something like that in grading. We're not, I mean, that's why we had to come up with some kind of standardization. And it is up to your committee to work together to spend the money as you see fit with some standardization in play. So now everybody, we don't have 8-inch pine trees growing in the middle of a right-of-way when mowing is part of the MSBU. Why would you have an 8-inch pine tree growing when you had the access to mow those right-of-ways? You shouldn't have that problem ever again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, next speaker, Frank Reddington.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Frank Reddington. I reside at 152 Bowfin Drive in Belaca. And I thought coming here today, the question was not the fees involved, which I personally don't have a problem with the $203 fee. The question was whether or not the majority vote, which I understand 79% of the people that received the letters responded, and they responded to abolish the MSBU. I had no idea that there was going to be a discussion on whether or not the fee was justified as far as the $203. But again, when you look at any vote, as far as I know, in the US of A, when you send out, everybody votes like we're going to all vote today. If you don't vote, that's your loss. And many times, my dad used to tell me, Frank, if you don't vote, then you don't have a right to speak for or against anything. So those people that didn't vote or respond, Commissioner Turner, I think that's on them, not on those who did. So I think you really have to support, if you get a majority of people voting to abolish, then that's what the people want, and not just to go with, well, these people didn't respond. That's their problem.
I understand, but Mr. Reddington, if you didn't respond because you didn't mind the $203 and you didn't want it abolished, then why would you vote for something in that particular instance if you agree with what the vote is? You just don't send in something. I just don't understand what you're saying. I do understand your concept that the minority always says, well, the majority didn't vote, so the minority did, so the minority won the election. Oh, I understand. I get all that. But in this case, that wasn't the deal that I made with the committee. I made the deal with the committee, number one, that if they brought me an official letter from their committee asking to abolish the subdivision, that I would make the motion to send out the letter to ask for a 50% plus one that they wanted to abolish. And if it was here today, while I totally agree that it should not be done, that y'all are shooting yourself in the foot, I totally agree that it should not be done. I do believe that I would have made that motion if half of the total letters plus one had to come in to abolish. I'd be making that motion today, because that would be a majority of the people that live in that subdivision that want it done, even though I totally am against abolishing that subdivision, because you're shooting yourself in the foot. I believe that to be accurate.
I understand what you're saying as well, but when you look at, all the letters were sent out. all the property owners had the opportunity to respond. And you can't go against those that did respond because people did not respond. I mean, you have to go with what's there, I would think.
When you put a subdivision in place, a MSBU in place, the standard is, it used to be 66%, I believe, or at least 60. It used to be, and we actually dropped that to 50+1 because we like MSBUs if the citizens want them. And at one time, we even said that when we're putting the MSBUs in place, we even made the rule that anybody that doesn't send a letter back is a yes vote. We were shot down on that because it's not legal.
Well, I would agree with that. Just because they don't respond.
Yes or no. You can't take that on building them. That's when we're putting them in. But on this end of it, there is no rules. We could vote today to just abolish the MSBU with no reason whatsoever.
That's correct.
I understand.
Like
I'm
the
not going to do that.
state statutes say that.
That upsets you, but I'm not going to do that because I don't believe you have a clear majority of the people in there, and you clearly have people within your subdivision that are wanting to try and do better, that are trying to come up with a better way to spend the money, a better way to do the services. I mean, you've got people in there that have come forward. Miss Wallace is one of them right there, that she's trying to come forward and come up with a better solution instead of just, well, turn it all off. We're not getting what we pay for anyhow. I'm sorry, that's whining. That's not a solution.
The fact that we want to eliminate the MSBU doesn't mean we don't want to maintain our roads.
Okay, so y'all are going to maintain them by yourself? Is that what you're saying?
Well, as part of the community and being a taxpayer, we thought we would be able to go on the county plan and also be put on the dirt to pave, which it's been my understanding, and since I've been here, that we could not get on the dirt to pave as an MSBU.
That's not accurate. Didn't you just hear what Mr. Harvey said, and didn't you hear what just Mr. Adams-Ack said? I mean, if your commissioner in that area decides to fight hard that his allocation of dirt to pave goes in your subdivision and he fights hard for that, then there's probably going to be a chance. But you got to understand that in all of our areas, we try to take the worst roads first and try to fix them, the ones that are most critical. Those are the ones we try to fix. It may be because they have to send the grader all the way across the county to grade one certain road. So if we do that one, you don't have to drive that grader out there anymore because all the roads in that area are paved. There's many reasons that you may bring this into it. But just to say if you abolish our subdivision, we might get it paved, that's the most accurate information that you've been told of anything that I've ever heard in my 68 years.
You say
The most
inaccurate.
The most inaccurate. Because I'm just flat telling you, it's not going to just automatically happen. It's just not going to. And I think that's some of the things that they're thinking about in that particular abolished movement that y'all are having, that it's better for you. It's not better for you, Mr. Reddington. It's not better for you, especially if you don't mind paying the $203 a year. It's not better for you. I promise you, it's not better for you.
Well, again, I have to go back to what I thought this meeting was about. The letters were sent to all property owners. Some choose to respond, some choose not to.
Yes, sir.
And the majority that did respond were in favor of abolishing the MSBU. And that's where I stand.
Okay.
To go
Right.
against the majority just doesn't seem right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reddington.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Adams-Ack, before we move on to Francis, I think it's Gasson.
I agree with him on the voting to a point, but I'm going to reiterate what Mr. Turner said and what Mr. Rawls has said. A Class 2 road, if that in fact is what you would revert to, is basically a road where if you call and complain and you say, hey, this road isn't impassable, I just had one this week, and Sean drives out, they verify, the road actually was passable, so we're not going to do anything on that road. that's how it works. And I wouldn't want to be someone living in that neighborhood and have it where, and I live on a private road that I maintain with my own tractor, and I buy my own stuff, and it costs me thousands of dollars a year. So I'll just put that out there. But I wouldn't want to be someone that just bought a house there and was unaware of this, because that's what happens in this county, all throughout this county. People buy houses and they don't realize it's a private road. They don't realize it's a Class 2 road. This happens all the time. That's the majority of our complaints about roads are from new people that move here and don't know what the status is of the road. So Class 2 road, if it's passable, they're going to go out there and be like, yeah, it looks good. And that's it. And that may take 3 years before they come out there and grade, because it's passable every time they come out and look. So I just want to make you aware, that happens throughout our county. I have hundreds of miles of Class 2 roads in District 5, and that is what happens. That's what occurs, because that is the rating of the road. So just be aware of that. I'm all for abolishing it if you guys choose to and all that, and I even think that the vote you got is enough, but it's going to be a problem for y'all, and I just want to make sure you guys know that if that ever does get passed. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gasson?
My name is Francis Gasson. I live at 169 Bonita Drive. I'm a member of the committee. Bill couldn't be here today. He's in Alaska. He asked me to speak. We've had our committee meetings with our public. We have gone personally door to door, put flyers on everybody's door. The committee voted 3-1 to abolish. The residents voted 16-1 to abolish. One person cannot bully this committee or us. We had over 75% of the notices that went out come back as yes, they want to abolish. There was a yes and a no box. If you didn't want to abolish it, mark no, send it back. Not our fault, it's theirs. If they didn't want to take the time. Not every lot out there is buildable. Not every lot is owned by one person. There's companies. There are lots that they can't build on because they're wetlands. This has been an ongoing process for what I understand, almost 20 years to get rid of this. It's time you listen to us. We've asked for abolishment. That's what we expect. Mr. Turner, you continually try to tell us, well, you're not going to get the service. But that's just trying to discourage us in what we want.
That's not accurate.
Well, that's what you're trying to do, though, is it not?
Not accurate.
You're trying to discourage us. You're saying, okay, you're not going to get service, so why do you want to abolish?
Okay.
You abolish is because the service we're getting is garbage. The service we're going to get isn't any better. We've already seen his work. So why do I want to continue to pay $238 per lot, not parcel, to have this useless money just thrown up in the air and thrown away? And you say how much better the service is going to be. Well, here's the problem. The problem went, it's almost 3 to 4 times more money per mile to grade. So yeah, we're paying more money, and supposedly we're getting more service, but no, the service is costing us that much more money. That's why our fees went up. The whole bottom line is, it's time to listen to us. We asked for it to be abolished, and that's what we would like for y'all to do. Thank you.
Right, sir. Thank you. Commissioner Rawls?
You know, I personally would like to see us reduce the fee to $0, leave the MSBU in place for 1 year with a contingency that we get actual pricing on paving. The roads are in the public works system. There are roads. We own them. We're responsible for maintaining them at some level at some point.
When you say
Excuse me.
that,
Hang on just a second. I'm going to let in just a second, I know.
Well, what the heck?
Okay.
I'll pass my buck.
They're Class 2 roads, there's no doubt. But the level of service that we have to provide may not be suitable to some of the folks here. So what I would encourage is that we take a look at slowing down, go to the $0 cost, and let y'all see over the next year what the level of service looks like. Maybe you're satisfied with it and everybody's happy and we just move on our merry way. Or maybe y'all take a look at revising your MSBU next year, starting now, getting ahead of the curve, and deciding what y'all want to look like in the future, and then vote as a citizens group on what you want to do with your roads.
Commissioner
Otherwise,
Turner?
I'll vote in favor of abolishing if that's what y'all want, but I don't think it's in your best interest.
Commissioner Turner?
Question that I was trying to ask, thank you for allowing me to do that, was basically, well, I can't help it that the damn microphone don't work. It's on and I'm pointing it straight at me. Does that help any? Okay, all right, thank you for letting me know. I'll try to do better. When I usually get this close, it starts lighting the room up with all kind of humming and stuff. So the question I have is, what you're saying is drop it to 0 and let's say there's no services are going to be performed this year at all.
Run as a Class 2
We run
road.
it as it was just not an MSBU at all.
Correct.
So if the roads become impassable, that's what you're saying. That's the only question I had, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to understand that. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Harvey?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Last card. Is it Scurry? Bev or Bo? Bo? Okay. Bo Scurry. Good.
Bo Scurry, 127 Kingfish Avenue. Just to reiterate, Mr. Turner, those letters had a yes and a no. So for you to say that the people that didn't send the letters back actually care, nobody in this room right here cares about the $213. What we care about is the level of service that we've had. We've already seen the level of service we're going to get from the new guy. It's deplorable. Absolutely. And that's all.
Okay. Thank you. All right, that's the last of the comments cards. Commissioner, I'll open it up for discussion. Okay. Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't have my mic on. If you're not happy with the level of service you're getting, we have contractual obligations with the contractor. We don't pay him unless it's signed off on. We can fix this problem. If that's the issue, it can be fixed. And I know some of the Citizens Committee members might be questioning that, but truly, this is the Citizens Committee pot of money. If you're not happy with your roads, you let NILDA know. If you're not happy with the contract, you let NILDA know or Public Works know. We're not going to pay for something out of our public funds that isn't up to par to what you want, period, and bottom line with that. So if it's not about the money and it's about the services, let's address that to be that case. But I think you're going to do a misservice of because you're going to have people that have, maybe they didn't respond. I don't know why they didn't respond. Yes, there's a box, yes or no, and I apologize for that. But truly, going forward, we can fix these problems. Now, if you go to 0 assessment, you still stay on the roll, but you don't have any services. And I don't know if that's fair. I really don't know if that's fair, because one good hurricane, one good problem, and you're going to be stuck for a whole year waiting on this board or another board to decide what's going to take place there. I think anytime we can put government in the hands of the people, you're better off than we are. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Okay, commissioners, I'll ask a few questions. The contractor that performed the service after the county had to step in, it's going to be the provider that will take this MSBU forward.
County's doing it now, aren't
Okay, so the county's doing it now. We didn't hire somebody to do it. I thought we hired somebody to do it.
We've awarded a contract, but those dollars ran out, and so I think we have had county crews service the area so that we could try to maintain service as close to what the original intent of the MSBU was designed to do. Those county services were pulled from other areas in order to service them and would cease to happen moving forward. It would go back to the awarded contractor around the fee schedule as directed by the committee based on their needs or wants within the allowable amount of money that they have.
Okay, so the awarded contractor, how much presence has he had out there? I was gonna say, it doesn't sound
Very
like
little.
doesn't sound like they were happy with that contractor either.
They ran out of money.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so there wasn't dollars to allow that contractor to perform work. As with any of our contractors, there is a contractual obligation. We can terminate for cause or for convenience, for no cause whatsoever. It truly is how staff's directed to proceed.
Okay. Okay, so our decision today on this one is to either move it forward as it stands, take it to 0.
If you move it forward as it stands, it doesn't need any action. If you're going to take it to 0, then obviously you need a formal action.
What was Rich's comment?
We need to know if your intent is to abolish that MSBU. Or just bring it to 0 if you're going to make an amendment to the fee that's already been passed.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Harvey?
Didn't we have some discussion here that getting back to the Citizens Committee to look at a different scope of work and a different price? Do we have time to make that happen before? Do we have until 9/13?
No.
No?
No, sir, because you have to have 20 days of advertisement of a rate change if we're going to amend that ordinance, the resolution which set the current fee that you've passed. And we only have 20 days from today to September 13th. And those numbers and rolls have to be certified to the property appraiser, but with a deadline of September 15th. So you don't have time after today to make adjustments to this current year's rate.
So the only thing we could do is, the board today would have to decide a number from 238 down to 0, whatever that is. The Citizens Committee would not have time to make that decision. Am I right?
Ma'am, hang on just a second.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
I think that the fee was derived based on the average services needed on the contract. So if you set a random amount of money, I don't know how I'm going to promise a service schedule based on the contractor's fee schedule.
You're right, thank you.
Mr. Turner?
I'm not in favor of doing anything. I believe that if we went through 1 year of the 200, is it 2.3 or 2.13?
It's 238.
238. That's 238. I don't believe that the majority of the people out there that this is about $238. I don't believe it is. I think that it's about they don't believe they're getting their money's worth for the 238. But I think also that part of this situation is that they've been used to $30. Wasn't last year's 38 or something? How much was their last year?
About that, but
It was very little money. And so they ran out of money at the beginning of the year, basically, with just having a little bit of services done. And so now they're upset that they didn't get any services throughout the year, except that the county decided to go trying to help, tried to move in behind the MSBU contractor because that was the least expensive way to do it for the year, other than us putting out unbudgeted funds. but it also meant somebody else in the county didn't get the services that they should have been getting somewhere else in the county, which I know that doesn't bring to it. I believe we just need to go on and do this for a year at 238, and if this committee believes that at the middle of next year or whatever time that it takes that they're not getting the services, or they want less services, or they want more services, or whatever they want, then we work with them just like we're willing to do and try to work that out. But I believe they'll have a pot of money that the committee can control, that can get them culverts, lime rock, drainage, fix the roads, do whatever. So I don't think we need to move forward with anything today other than just, we've already set the rates back at a meeting previously. We are allowed to set them lower today, but I truly believe that if they just get the opportunity 1 year to try it at the 238 level, that they're going to find that the services are a lot higher than what they were in the past. So that's just my opinion. I don't think we need to do anything today, just move it forward.
Okay, Commissioner Adams-Act?
I guess I just have one question. If we went forward with it the way it is this year, and the 238 got paid, they chose to only do one grading for the whole year. All that money was left, and they said, really, we don't need your services. Next year, if they got the votes and whatever happened, they got 5 people to agree to abolish, does that money get redistributed back to the citizens evenly that paid in? And I guess that we've never talked about that, but I believe once you got rid of the MSBU, wouldn't that money go back to the
I think that
citizens in some way?
there wouldn't be a dollar for dollar refund. It would be a situation where the citizens could identify a project specific that impacts that subdivision for municipal service benefit. I.e., let's say we collect the 238, which is based on 12 gradings a year. We get into it and they decide they only want 2 gradings this year. So there's a reserve account essentially there. That committee then can recommend to the board, we want to remove all the trees, or we want to make culverts, or we want to, you name it essentially. There's a project specific for which their dollars get put back into their area to benefit that boundary.
But only in the scope of work under that. They couldn't go paving.
Right.
Well, they could do anything as long as it then complied with the procurement code. So the scope we have is only bidding for grading services. But if they came back a year from now and say, hey, we want to, whatever it is, we would then go follow procurement code, but they would have a finite amount of money in our account that's for their benefit.
So basically, if it abolishment and there's $50,000 left, they have to find a way to use that $50,000 within the service benefit unit. It still doesn't come back to the county. That's the main thing I was trying to make clear, is it does not come into the county budget. So they'd have to either trim trees or dig ditches or do whatever, and then going forward, they would just be county maintained for everything else. I just want to make sure I understood it correctly, because I've never heard anyone ask that question. So thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls?
Have they spent all their reserve money, Nilda?
Why we took it over.
Yeah. So, I can see it from both sides. We had a conversation in here several months ago, and part of the conversation revolved around allowing them to abolish the MSBU. Taking it to $0 leaves the MSBU in place for 1 year and gives us an opportunity to figure out which direction to go in. If I can just ask for a real quick show of hands, are y'all interested in having an MSBU in the future that would maintain your roads ever? Okay, so it looks like they don't want an MSBU. I mean, I think they're pretty resolute. So.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
The people that showed up today, what I've noticed in my entire life, even before I became a county commissioner, the people that show up for a public meeting are the ones that are upset about a certain issue. The other people that want everything done and want everything left alone just aren't upset about it to come and do something. I truly believe that it would be a much better way to handle this. I don't believe the $238 upsets very many people in this. I don't. Let them pay the $238 this 1 year and see if you get the services. See if you can get better services. I know that if I lived there, I would pay double to have great roads than have zero services. If we back it back down to zero, it would keep the MSBU in place for sure. They'll get zero services this year, other than what's done on a Class 2 road, which is under extreme circumstances. We work on them. I don't think everybody understands that. So I don't think we should do anything. Let the MSBU pay the $238, and I'm hoping that either one of two things happens. They say, oh, we like this new level of service, or they come in and say, instead of paying $238, we're going to try to get it down this year because we were able last year to only do it 6 times. But then we have a little bit of money in the fund if a hurricane hits. Y'all ain't going to be the first ones on the list getting fixed. It's going to be the people who have Class 1 roads. You know, if yours is impassable, that's different. They'll try to get out there as soon as they can. But I'm just telling you, a Class 1 impassable road is going to take a precedence over a Class 2 impassable road. Like it or not, that's the facts. So anyhow, I don't think we should move on today at all. I think we've certified the tax rolls. We've certified the rates at an earlier meeting. I think we just need to move forward with those certifications and see what happens. If it's not good by the middle of next year, committee, come back and see us. Nilda will be happy to work with you. She's one of the friendliest people I've ever met. She's happy to work with you. So anyhow, that's what I think we should do.
Commissioner Adams-Act?
I guess I have a question on if we took it to 0, that doesn't put them in the county system. So basically, that's committing to no maintenance for 12 months. So I think that's a terrible idea. I don't think 0 is an option. If we made a motion to get rid of the MSBU, what would that look like, Rich, and how would we have to make that motion? And what would it have to look like for us coming back? It would be for the next meeting or the next transportation meeting, and that would be publicly noticed, so anyone, how do we publicly notice that? Is that a contact to all the people in that MSBU, or is it just a regular public notice in the paper?
It's a regular public notice to pass an ordinance, which would be 10 days. To drop the rate is what requires the 20-day notice.
Okay. And that motion would simply be a motion to abolish the MSBU?
Yes.
Or to put it on the next agenda to abolish the MSBU?
Yes, we really just need direction from the board. Doesn't even have to be a motion.
Or no direction, to leave it like it is.
Either way is direction.
Okay, so you don't need a motion to just to keep it the way it is for 1 year.
If the board's decision is to keep the rate as is, as was previously approved, you don't need to do anything. If the board wants to reduce the rate, then we have to send out notice and have an amended rate resolution. If the board wants to abolish the MSBU, then we need that direction to also be able to put out the notice in the advertisement to have the ordinance on the September 13th meeting.
I make a motion that we abolish the MSBU for the meeting on September 13th.
Second.
Okay, we got a proper motion by Commissioner Adams-Act to abolish, and a proper second by Commissioner Rawls. Open for discussion, Commissioner Turner.
Just a question. So you don't want to go to $0 and keep the MSBU in place because they would have no service, but you're going to do away with abolish the MSBU where they have no service.
Well, class 2 is a level of service. I mean, I've gotten many roads serviced under Class 2 based on phone calls and based on taking pictures and them actually being impassable. So Class 2 is a level of service. Do I think this is a great idea for them? No, I do not. I think that it's a mistake on their part to want that. But I believe that the way that the notice went out, I think it's sufficient for me to make that motion and to vote yes to abolish it.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to support this motion just for the record.
Okay, Commissioner Harvey.
I think it's a bad idea. I think 200 and some odd people or 283 people or lots or whatever we want to call them are being affected, and they're going to get no notice that this is going to happen, other than if they read the newspaper, see it on our website. I worry about those people. When you got a 33 response dictating to 77% of what's fixing to take place, I think it's detrimental, and I don't think it's good for that area.
Okay, and I'll just go ahead and, I don't either, so I won't be voting for this. All right. Okay, so got a proper motion and a proper second. All in favor to abolish indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Aye. Okay. It fails 3-2. So so continuing, this just moved forward, no more action on this, correct? Okay. Commissioner Rawls?
Nope, you just asked the question.
Okay. All right, we're going to move down. I'm going to move it around a little bit. We're going to move it down to public comment on miscellaneous items. This part of the agenda is designed for citizens to bring matters to the attention of the board. It's not reasonable to expect the board to debate and deliberation or discussion on items that we receive no prior information. So please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and I'll take these in order. Bob Pierce. Mike Merrill.
Bob Pierce had to leave. He had to get his wife to a doctor appointment. My name is Mike Merrill. I'm the founder and executive director of Florida Urgent Rescue. I was last here in this venue 7 years ago when I was actually fighting the animal shelter, or the leadership at that time. There was some pretty shocking things going on 7 years ago, and a citizens group successfully fought. We went to the Attorney General and the Governor alleging animal cruelty. The Board of County Commissioners removed the people who were in charge and replaced them and brought in new leadership and turned the whole operation around. It went from one of the worst shelters in Florida to one of the best as far as the people. Since then, after that, I started Florida Urgent Rescue, and since then we've rescued, as of the end of the last year, 1,900 dogs and cats, including 402 from Putnam County, more than any other location anywhere. The reason I'm here, and the reason why Bob and several other people are here, is to try to see what we can do about moving forward on a new shelter. I have visited animal shelters and rescues all around the country and all around the world. I've been in Ukraine, Romania, Poland, all over the United States, and the people here are phenomenal. The people, they're busting their backsides to do a great job with very limited resources, but the facility is one of the worst. It's old, it's outdated, it's decrepit. As I understand it, there's funds that are set aside. I think it's time to move the ball forward, and I think it would help not just the animals and not just the employees, but I think it would help the people of the county a lot by building a new shelter. There's a lot of inefficiency. Not very many people go behind the landfill to adopt a dog or cat. Getting a better location in a newer facility, I think, will bring in a lot more adopters. It would also allow veterinarians to come to the shelter instead of having to run them back and forth to UF all the time. I think it would save a lot of county money. It would be a lot more efficient. The other thing is I think it would help the employees in the shelter. I think those of you that haven't gone to visit the shelter, I would encourage you to do so and spend a day there and ask yourself if you would want to work here every day. These people they're doing a phenomenal job there, but they really need help. I think it's time to move forward. If the funds aren't enough, then let's figure out a plan to raise more. I think there's enough to come up with a new facility, at least get a running start on it. I think the time is now. Bob Pierce, who was going to speak first, is the former shelter director. He's a Vietnam vet. He was a dog trainer in Vietnam. He's owned kennels. He's got a wealth of experience. I think he's a great resource. He is a resident of Putnam County, and he is retired here, so I would submit that you could call on him for assistance as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Harvey?
Sir, before you leave, that's not what Mr. Pierce was going to talk about.
I'm sorry?
That's not what he was going to talk about.
What was he going to talk about?
Talk about the success of different programs. He was in my office for about 10 minutes before the meeting.
Okay.
He understands how the shelter is going, He
Okay.
understands the location pick, he understands the funding, he understands design build. He's got that, and he's looking forward to it. He just wanted to share some of the successes that were
Okay.
going on. So
Okay.
he, and you heard today about our progress on the animal shelter. So it's really not about funding or the shelter. He wanted to talk about the successes, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Robert Thomas. Robert Thomas. Jesse Shekels? Shekels, okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Jessie Shekels. I was asked to speak this morning, now a little bit more into the afternoon, but by Bob, and speak to you about some of the positive things that my organization has brought to Putnam County. I'm Jessie Shekels. I'm founder of Twisted Oaks Rescue in Keystone Heights. I'm a mom of two. I'm a proud Army veteran, and I'm a community pet advocate and educator. Why are we different? We're much different. Twisted Oaks Rescue provides local resources to keep pets and people together during times of crisis. What does that mean? We provide 3 main rescue services: our pet pantry, which feeds and provides supplies for thousands of pets in the Lake Erie region; discounted medical programs, as well as pet education and events. Basically, my organization is the bridge between pet owners and the shelter. One of the most common reasons for a pet to be turned into the shelter is the owners are not able to provide decent resources for the pet's quality of life. So they can't feed them, they can't take care of them medically, and so they turn them over to the shelter. 6.3 million pets entered the shelter in 2021. About 4 million of them were adopted. Right under 1 million were euthanized, and about 800,000 are returned to their owners. Someone once asked me what I could do to help. So, I started Loki's Lunchbox, which is our pet food pantry program. We have fed thousands and kept hundreds of lake area pets and people together. Our pantry is the bridge between the pet owners and the shelter, and we provide pet food and supplies to Bradford County, Clay County, Putnam County, and others. To be more specific, we have donated 37 tons of pet food since 2020. We have donated 9,000 pounds of pet food to Putnam Pets and 1.5 tons of pet food and supplies to the shelter here in Putnam County. Food is an essential in life, and when people go without it, it's a very humbling experience for them, with their pets as well. But something that we realized really quickly in providing the food is that it's kind of a Band-Aid for a larger problem. What is the larger problem? 85% of the time, it's overpopulation in the home, meaning people have too many pets and they can't take care of them. But I'm more of a proactive than reactive person, so I ask why? Why are there so many pets? Overpopulation in the home, people are not spaying and neutering their pets. We average 120 pet families a month that we serve. And Twisted Oaks Rescue has also coordinated over 1,800 lake area pet families to receive discounted medical programs. Our programs are microchipping, wellness, and spay and neuter. More specifically, we have spayed and neutered 590 pets in Putnam County since 2020. That is the largest county that we've served, and I don't even live there. Spay and neuter promotes healthy choices for pets for life, as well as it controls our pet population. Basically, I'm standing before you today to explain to you that with community partnerships, partnering with other nonprofits, partnering with local vets, we've been able to spay and neuter for $30 for a cat and $50 for a dog for the last 3 years. We've served this community. We absolutely love Putnam County. We love the staff at Putnam County Animal Control. And though we're not there taking pets out of the shelter and adopting them out, I'm helping to prevent them from getting there to start off with. So Thank
Okay.
you for
Okay.
having me.
All right, thank you. Yeah, and Diane Sykes is next, but,
I'm going to ask a really quick question to you, ma'am. Absolutely. Because I was in the grocery store this morning, and I said, ma'am, your cat runs up and down the road impregnating all these other cats, and all these kittens are getting run over by cars, and can I grab your cat and get it neutered? And she said, well, I'm not sure I want to do that. You're saying if I give you $30, you can neuter that cat with her permission?
Yes, sir. So
Give me your card, because I'm going to bring you clientele. Because I'm tired of the problem was I had to pick up a dead kitten in front of a house where 3 little girls live at with their mother. You know, the cat's covered with ants. That's not fair. I didn't want those kids to come out and see that. And it's not fair for that lady who doesn't want to neuter her cat. But if I can catch that cat, he's coming to you. I'm telling you, something's fixing that.
I would be happy to take them all day long.
Thank you.
okay.
I'll
all
get
right.
her back to him after he's neutered.
Okay, thank you. Okay?
Thank you.
Miss
Sorry
Di-
about that.
okay, Miss Diane Sykes.
Diane Sykes, 304 Chestnut, Crescent City. It is really more cost-effective to fix the females. It would be easy to fix the males, but the females have babies. It's the same old story. I'm here to represent SPAN, a South Putnam Animal Network, but the numbers I'm going to give you are not for all of South Putnam. They're only for Crescent City and Belaca. What we've done is SPAN has kind of changed gears, and we've switched to just doing spay neuter and emergency vet services due to lack of funds and, of course, COVID, and the fact that I'm 66 years old and I'm the youngest member, so we can't wait another 7 years for a new shelter. What I did hear, we're at the design stage. What I didn't hear is any dates. I'd like to hear dates like everything else was assigned a date, because like I said, time's a wasting, I'm getting older. With Belaca, we took a grant that from First Coast No More Homeless Pets, and we spayed 150 cats. We've used their van and our volunteers, and we made runs to Jacksonville 3 times a week to take cats up there and get them fixed. With the COVID grant in 2021, in Crescent City area, we spayed and neutered 115 dogs and cats. We've fostered animals, Sadie and her 2 pups, Buster and Petey, who all got good homes. Lucy and Ethel, who were pups that were brought into us by the Crescent City Police Department when we had one. And they went to a family with 4 boys, and as soon as they were brought home, they helped the toddler dig a hole. And another success story we had was Boy. He was a black German Shepherd mix who went to Canines for Warriors. We wish that more animals from the shelter could go, but if they have any pit mix at all in them, then the veterans have a difficult time finding housing. This year SPAN has 258 spay-neuter vouchers that we've issued in the South Putnam area. This year alone, we've done 10 emergency vet visits. The reason that it's been years, that money's been sitting there, I think, for 7 years, and it's now losing its value. And this new shelter needs to be built, not that it's going to house more animals. We know that. It's going to house the same number of animals, but the turnover is going to be greater because people aren't going to go to the dump to pick up pets. When the turnover increases, that means more animals are finding homes. And we also might be able to get a mobile vet to come out to a new facility if they didn't have to go down a rutted road following a garbage truck. So I'd like to see some dates put on when this new shelter is going to be built, because we are in dire, dire need. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Diane. And thank you for work with SPAN. Miss Becky Cummins? Becky Cummins? Okay, Jenny Oakwood, I believe, left also. Martin Berta? Martin Berta? Gary Coppin? Tom Worcester? Walter Bly? Walter Bly? Okay, before I go to the next one, because it's on a different subject, somebody reached out to me today, and I believe what their question was why was animal control not working with the city municipalities? I think it was the city of Pelaca, in general, but they are. I talked to John Ciaffi, who's actually head of animal control, and they are still working with the municipalities. It may not be the service that they want or expect, but they are working with them, and that was one of the topics with the joint county commission meeting between the city of Pelaca and the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners that we discussed. So I'm sure at our next meeting we'll discuss that more. Okay, last speaker, Mr. Mark Edwards. If you would state your name and address and speak clearly into the microphone.
Will do. Thank you. Mark Edwards, 130 Rooster Run Road. First meeting I've attended in person, and I just want to thank you guys. You all seem like you're really concerned about the fiscal responsibility that's been entrusted to you. One of the most underfunded counties in the state really has to address what they're spending money on. I need to make the commissioners and public aware of how the policing authority of this county commission is behaving with its citizens and their tax revenue. For one of the least wealthy and funded counties in Florida to be wasting this much money in an effort to persecute a single citizen is not fiscally responsible, to say the least. Recently, an ongoing dispute with a neighbor and their unleashed dogs came to a head when that neighbor called the sheriff's department. After initially addressing the situation by informing the neighbor the unleashed animals were in violation and what my rights were as the victim in this situation, the deputies then turned their attention to me and my farm cart that I used to follow and record this neighbor committing crimes against my livestock. I had removed myself from the immediate area to de-escalate the situation and was then surprised that the deputies had suddenly turned their attention to me, the victim, as the problem in this situation. I was simply documenting an ongoing dispute between neighbors. The interaction then became solely about my golf cart and the deputy's authority over me, ultimately ending with 2 separate traffic stops and 1 citation. I believe the deputies' egos were bruised by my knowledge of our legal rights and a resistance to their unlawful orders and the recording of the encounter. It has now spiraled out of control simply for spite, in my opinion. With no one at the sheriff's office willing to accept the situation, I'm asking that the BOCC address this and investigate this further. The willful behavior from the sheriff's office can be seen in several very well-documented ways directly associated with this one simple interaction, not the least of which is a taxpayer-funded lawyer for the sheriff's office, Alex Sharp, is now personally attending and fighting the dismissal of this very minor traffic ticket in court and willing to pull out all the stops and spend however much money to prove that a citation is lawful. He stated recently at another hearing, I'll just subpoena all the deputies. There were at least 5 deputies that were involved in this encounter. Again, a huge waste of money, in my opinion, just to prove a very, very simple and minor traffic cart citation. It's an apparent attempt to squash a single citizen at the taxpayer's expense, as well as the next hearing, a high-level employee, Joseph Wells, personally ranting on the Facebook about an ongoing prosecution. Had no idea who I was talking to, didn't realize it was the number 2 at the sheriff's department, getting on Facebook and just ranting the most ridiculous argument with a citizen. It doesn't seem like a good outlay of money. Also gaining all manner of oops from another high-level employee responsible.
Mr. Edwards, if you could wrap it up pretty quick.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Another high-level employee at the sheriff's office, John Greenwood, has had so many oops regarding my open records request just to try and get some public records on this. I don't really understand what's going on. Ultimately, I feel as though these officers have overstepped their authority and cannot back up and admit fault, and I worry it will cost the county even more money than it currently is. Detaining me a second time for exercising my constitutional rights under the First Amendment.
Mr. Edwards, thank you.
Alrighty, thank you.
Commissioner Rawls.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes, sir.
As you were reading,
I have
what
like
my mind is, it sounds to me like
30 more seconds.
You're your grievance should be with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
I actually was my fiscal, I had like 30 more seconds if I could get another 30
No, but
seconds.
what I want to say is, I don't believe, and I can be corrected by our attorney, that we have any ability to admonish, chastise, or in any way discipline the sheriff's department.
Oh, no, that's not what I'm asking for.
Excuse me, he's a
Yeah.
constitutionally elected officer.
Sure.
So while you obviously have your right to bring your grievance in front of us, I don't know that we have any authority over the sheriff. And I think your problem is probably better served in civil court or with the FDLE than it would be in this forum. It just,
Respectfully, I was almost to the fiscal part of the county that you could address. If I could have another 30 seconds, I'd love
we
to.
just have no oversight over
Okay,
it.
I'll do it at the next meeting.
we
But
don't have any.
unfortunately, I really, this is a fiscal responsibility. I'm not asking for my specific
Right.
incidents. It's a general kind of a, and really also getting into the body camera that we've just started paying for.
Okay.
I'll bring
All
it
right.
up at the next meeting, and
Thank
again,
you.
if any of you'd like to reach out to me to discuss it further, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
Sure.
All good?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to have a few moments just to respond to some of the remarks.
Okay, yes, sir.
Name and address for the record, put your hand on the Bible.
Gator Deloach, 130 Ori Griffin Boulevard, Sheriff of Putnam County. And I must say, I'm a little confused and not sure that Mr. Edwards is referencing the same video that I witnessed. I'd like to invite each of you sitting on the dais and those that are in the gallery to view the video of Mr. Edwards and make your own independent assessment of his actions before passing judgment. And I'll gladly make a copy of that video available to anyone who wishes to see it. In fact, I'll do you each a courtesy of forwarding a copy of it to the 5 of you and staff as well, and anyone seated in the audience or who's watching on YouTube as well. And I must say that after reviewing the video, I'm contemplating giving my deputies who were involved in this particular interaction an award for the tremendous amount of respect and restraint that they showed during what I would describe as one of the most egregious verbal assaults I have ever seen, where Mr. Edwards resorted to making remarks about my deputy's sexuality and the most profane verbal assaults I've ever witnessed during my lifelong career in law enforcement. 22 years ago, in my unbridled youth, full of vinegar and everything that goes along with it, I would say the outcome may not have been the same and may have resulted differently if I were in those deputies' shoes. Mr. Edwards' tirade here today isn't really worthy of a response. All I'll say is that even at my age, if I had engaged in such behavior, my own mother would be beating down my door to promptly wash my mouth out with soap and tear my tail up for using such vulgar obscenities as Mr. Edwards did in the video that he's referencing.
Yeah, Ginger'd be coming after you.
You better believe it. I certainly hope he doesn't kiss his own mother with that mouth, and can only imagine how embarrassed she would be if she were aware of his behavior. The 5 of you, all of us sitting in this room and myself included, welcome anyone to Putnam County who wants to call us home, but certainly not this type of behavior. If Mr. Edwards is unhappy here, perhaps he would divest himself of the property he acquired through ill-gotten means after allegedly defrauding his elderly mother of the funds exceeding $100,000, which she entrusted him to protect. I cordially invite him to take up residence outside of Florida where his behavior might be looked upon more favorably or even accepted. The bottom line is, when you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sheriff Deloach. Okay, any more public comment? I'll close the public comment portion. We'll move down to Clerk of Courts.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing to bring to the board this morning. Thank you.
Okay, any appointments? And I'll start with Commissioner Adamsack.
Per the last meeting, I'd like to appoint Ann Wallace for District 5 of AHAC. I think that'll help you with your quorum, Chairman Pickens.
Thank you very much. Ann Wallace?
Ann Wallace, and she's already submitted her paperwork and is all set, correct?
Okay.
AHAC.
Affordable Housing.
Affordable Housing Committee.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, affordable housing.
I thought I heard that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and that's a district appointment, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Turner,
I have none today, sir.
Commissioner Rawls,
I have none.
okay, Commissioner Harvey? I have none, sir. And I have none. We'll move.
Or plea to the audience for, I'm having a very difficult time finding someone for the library board. So anyone watching or in the audience, please reach out if you're in District 5. Thank you.
Okay. We'll move down to County Administrator,
Mr. Chairman, I have no comments this morning. Thank you.
County Attorney.
Just briefly, I need to advise the council and the public that we are intending to have an executive session on September 13th in order to discuss some pending litigation and efforts to resolve that. So we will notice that meeting separately, but just so everyone knows, we'll have an executive session then. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner comments, Commissioner Rawls,
I have nothing right now.
Commissioner Harvey,
I have nothing, sir.
Commissioner Turner,
I have nothing.
Commissioner Adamsack.
I have nothing.
Okay, and I don't either, other than we will adjourn this meeting, and we're doing something a little different because of a commitment I have at 1:30. We're going to take about a 15-minute break, and then we're going to go into our transportation workshop. We stand adjourned.